You're on.
That's
Go ahead, General.
coming on right now, and I know, and I'll just talk here for a little bit as people are coming in. First of all, a lot going on, and I think that we just sort of reflect on what just happened up in Minnesota, which is a real tragedy. With this, sadly, another one of these young people who have been probably forced into this idea that being a transgender, person, whatever, is okay, and they get them on these hormonal drugs or whatever. And I'm certain that more will come out about this kid, but there's at least, it was during a mass this morning at a school. So a school, I guess a elementary, high school, and during the mass this morning, at least from what at least 17 injured so far. So those numbers always will change. And I think whenever something like that happens in our country, it makes us reflect on, everybody kind of goes, who did it, what happened, but we tend to forget the victims, and then the families and the extended families and all the people that are going to be absolutely broken and devastated from this tragedy that just happened. And sadly, it's not the first, and it won't be the last. But anyway, as I start to think about, here we are, we're winding down a long summer, getting ready to go into Labor Day here this weekend, and we're going to have, in this country, we're going to have probably one of the most consequential votes in our history, and that's going to be in New York City. And it's an off-cycle election. So it's in 2025 for the mayor of New York City. And a lot of people aren't really paying attention to it. And I would say that even some of the party apparatus is not paying attention to it, because, the GOP, the RNC, I haven't seen a big push for the publicity to change and the influence to change from this Mamdani guy to who is running on the GOP ticket, I guess, is Curtis Sliwa, who was made famous for his red beret, taking care of the subways of New York City. But this is a real bellwether for the United States of America going forward, folks. And like it or not, I think the chances that anybody has to beat this guy are very low at this stage. I've been told by some very, very seasoned political analysts that the way that New York City votes, particularly in the Bronx and Brooklyn, the registered voters are just not in the favor of the Republican Party, and the turnout is probably going to be 30% or less for a major election. So on that note, Steve, and for all the listeners, turnout, and this is really where, Steve, you and I kind of first met. We were talking about precincts and precinct strategy and all the kinds of things that have to happen at the local level. And I would just tell you that without this effort, without this voice that you have been able to put out over years now, and we're going to have to continue to do this going forward all the way through 2028, we're going to have people who are willing to, sound off, get their voices heard, but then actually get into the foxhole, so to speak, and fight the battles that we're going to have to fight at the local level. I mean, we're going to have a very, very demanding 2026 vote that if we don't get it right, if we don't maintain the House and the Senate, then the likelihood of President Trump being able to finish strong and instead of being impeached or worse. So we've got our work cut out for us. And I do know that as we look at the things that are happening around the rest of the country, it's the challenges that people like Tom Homan face, the challenges that people like Kash Patel are facing with the illegal surge that came into this country, upwards of 20 million people, the rise of fentanyl still on our streets by the Chinese and by these drug cartels, which President Trump has designated as foreign terrorist organizations. All that matters, but one of the things that we have to also keep in mind is this war in Ukraine. And I think what's happening, and this is just me talking, but I think what's happening is, number one, it's intentional that this war is going on. There's nothing unintentional about it. It happened. It started back in 2014 under Obama. It went to almost a screeching halt during the first Trump administration, and then the Russians in earnest started to attack again. Say what you want about either side, but the war is for all intents and purposes a hold that the Russian forces have on the eastern part of Ukraine. What are we going to do? We're going to fight. We're going to have the Europeans fight to remove them. I don't think so. I don't think there's enough resources in the world, and nobody wants to continue to see this war going. But the bigger, broader point for President Trump is that it's basically sucking all of his time up right now to deal with it. He's had to have the delegation in from Europe with Zelensky. He had to go over to he went over, to Alaska to meet with Trump. They're going to have another follow-up. I mean, these kinds of issues put such a demand on a president of the United States schedule, and things that he would rather do. He would rather focus on the economy. He would rather focus on the challenges that we are having domestically. I know as this coming year kicks in, he's going to want to get involved in the local elections, congressional, even mayoral races. And he's probably going to have to make some more decisions about the deployment of forces, of National Guard forces in other cities in the country, because we see the results of what he did when he deployed the military into Washington, D.C. I don't know what the stats are the last 24 hours, but the previous 3 weeks to that, there was 0 murders in the city of Washington, which was the number 4 murder capital, I think, in the country. And really was bad. I mean, I go in and out of Washington, D.C. a lot, and you literally cannot walk the streets at night. And now at least downtown you can, because they have a much more stronger security presence. So, the question came to me earlier today was, will Trump have to do that for other cities like Chicago, like Los Angeles, like sadly, all of these big cities, Kansas is another one, down hardcore Marxists. They're run by socialists, and they tie the police department's hands. They still focus on things like DEI and some of this other nonsense. So I want people to understand, Steve, that that this fight is not over because we won the election with Donald, and put Donald J. Trump into the White House. Actually, it now is being waged even greater, and going forward, an importance of this forum and the type of people that are on here that and I know many, or I certainly have met many of you as I've gone around the country. We have to now take what we do here, what Steve Stern has really begun, and we've got to expand it out into our own neighborhoods and back in our own local areas, right? And I think that can be done. I think it can be done physically, where people bring together, some of your different neighborhood, enclaves and stuff like that. I would ask for the churches to be a big part of it. Let's start. We need to start talking to the churches in the local communities. I'm actually up here in Florida now, in northern Florida, doing that with one great church here. So we've got to keep that. We got to keep doing that. We've got to just not have it on the Zoom, which is a great way for us to communicate to a larger audience and get key people on. I know you got some really good people coming on today, but this is also going forward. We're going to have to bring these types of forums together in our local communities. And like I said, if you can bring people together physically and get them to understand what's happening, that's what the GOP and the conservative side is supposed to do. Right? They have, these county Republican executive committees that were organized under, but in many cases, it's a clash between the grassroots America First people and the Rhino GOP crowd, and that happens right here in Florida. I know it happens all over the country because people have told me that. So I think what we need to do is we need to keep having these forums. We need to keep voicing what we believe is is the right approach and moving this whole thing forward. One last point, Steve, on election integrity and our election systems. I know that that what has come out already on the Russiagate stuff that has been exposed by Tulsi, and we've seen a lot of it on the internet. And there actually still more be that I think that if we ever had a truly fair election where, you know, everybody, one vote, one person, one vote, IDs, you know, I think Trump is even contemplating making it a national holiday, which would be fine. But if we had a fair vote in this country, Democrats would never win another seat. Or if they did, they'd win in very, very small numbers because they just have no base to stand on. They have no good ideas. I mean, their ideas about the direction that America should take is basically to end up as a communist country. And you know, I can't say that any stronger. It's not like we used to call kids names when I was a kid. You know, we used to call them commies, right? Well, now actually, when I use the word communist and I describe somebody in the, you know, on the left that's in the old Democrat Party, that's what they are. They have moved this nation, and one of the major parties, right, Republican and Democrat are the two major parties. They moved the major party of the Democrat machinery toward socialism and communism, and they have aligned themselves in many cases. We see this overseas for sure. They've aligned themselves with some of these radicals that are in the different Muslim communities. So people are going to have to really get out there and work hard. Everybody needs to get involved. Everybody needs to stand up. You know, time to stand up, step up. I would say that what I will involved and know what's going on, because this is a really good educational one. Nothing else. A very, very informative, the very informative podcast, if you will, or certainly Zoom call discussion with a great array of people. And it's important that we continue to do these. So let me just pause there. Steve, you got any questions of me?
Well, I think we were limited on time because we have a lot of people, but we'll get you back on in a few weeks and we'll really do a question answer from everybody. And we'll ask ahead of time so that we'll be able to get some time to do that. We thank you so much for taking your time out of where you are, and we'll talk on the side.
Absolutely, Steve. Thank you. God bless.
You got it. Okay, next we have Gina Swoboda, who is the chairman of the Republican Party in Arizona. And this is an Arizona-based thing. And the next one that we're going to have is going to be for Rhode Island. And we're going to do a different state every time we come on. So you got Gina on there?
Yes, go ahead, Gina. Go ahead.
I'm here. Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Raj. Thank you, General Flynn. If General Flynn's still there, we're very blessed to have him still in the fight. God bless you for everything you do. So Dan Schultz, the amazing Dan Schultz, is on this call. So if you haven't looked at the notes in the chat, please go to precinctstrategy.com, because that's the best way for the grassroots to get engaged on every level. Right now, I'm also the RNC EI committee chair. So we have working groups. We're trying to actually do work and not, be a show pony. We want to be a workhorse. So we're doing operations, legislation, voter registration, and technology. So no matter what state or territory you're in, you have an RNC member that can connect you to the person on that working group, on that committee. So these are people that are very passionate, that got elected to the RNC in order to address these problems. So that's a huge thing. I do want to flag an issue that's developing, and I encourage everybody. We're Arizona based on this call, but if you're in another state or you have friends in another state, please watch for this. So are you OCAVA, right, or a Uniformed Overseas Civilian Voting Act? We have holes in it. We know it's being abused. It's meant for the military and the civilians overseas, right? Then we have multiple states that added language at a state level that allows people who never lived in Arizona or in our states to vote in our states using UOCAVA. So there's litigation going on at the state level for that. And then the amazing Abe Hamadeh is trying to get verification through DOD on the federal level for that. But there's a new problem. So Secretary Adrian Fontes, who is the current Arizona Secretary of State, who hopefully will be replaced next year, has implemented a new voting system for UOCAVA. So I want to be clear, UOCAVA is a portal in every state where people can and like email, upload. New. This is not that. That's not what I'm talking about. Adrian Fontes has a program that is going to allow people to vote electronically, on their phone or their device anonymously through the portal. They're not going to duplicate those ballots, right? So now the ballot's not going to be tied to a person. Our observers can't see what they're doing. Our recorders are not going to put the ballots down on paper. So if we get into a challenge window and we have close races, this just happened in the North Carolina Supreme Court race, right? The court found they should not have been counting these never resident UOCAVA people, and they carved those votes out. We will not be able to do that. If we win in our case that says the Arizona Constitution says you have to be a resident, therefore the statute's bad, I still am not going to be able to throw these votes out because this system he's using prevents us from knowing who the voters are, if they were people who lived here or not. I do not have standing. A lot of times we get questions like, why don't you fight? Why don't you sue? I sue even when I get thrown out because I don't have standing. I need a recorder. I have a candidate. We have a special general election happening right now to replace the Grijalva seat with an amazing candidate named Daniel Gutierrez. Voting started today. But UOCAVA voting starts 45 days before election day. So UOCAVA has been going on with this untested, uncertified voting system. I've notified, RNC and, political up the food chain. I've reached out to my county attorneys and my county recorders to try to get someone to join us for standing. I'm hopeful, what we'll probably wind up doing here is reaching out and hoping that our plaintiff can be the current candidate. You know how this goes from 2020 and 2022, right? Because voting already started, Fontes didn't tell us what he was doing until it was already happening. That's what he does. That's what the left does. They're going to say the Purcell principle applies and it's moot, and they're not going to let us litigate. But we need to go fight now anyway to lay a predicate to come back before the next primary next year to make sure that this is not the tool that is used to take this election out from under our noses, because there are enough people registered UOCAVA to definitely impact races. And the Democrats Voting Abroad program, we had thousands and thousands of phone calls last year from people that were overseas on vacation or visiting family and saw web banner ads from Democrats Voting Abroad saying, click here to register to vote from abroad. So I just encourage everybody, please keep an eye on it. That's number one. Number two, we had a cyber breach, right, in Arizona. And the Iranian Republican National Guard purportedly did the hit on our candidate portal. It's on a server at the Secretary of State's office with the election night reporting system. They're claiming it's not connected to everything else. Do we know that? No, we don't know that. So both the party, the national party and the state party, the first step is you got to get the information from them and then you can litigate. That's ongoing. The legislature has sent referrals to DHS and DOJ. And people on this call will probably know we have very good people working at DHS and ODNI now.
The recording has stopped.
That we are getting everything done that we need to do. Okay. But in the meantime, I really encourage everybody, you got to get involved in your chief election official races. The Secretary of State's race here is hugely important. If we don't get Adrian Fontes out of there, this EPM or procedures manual he has is not good. There'll be litigation on that from legislature and the parties. And then, we call it farming it out. After those two groups take things, we ask people like AZ Free, AFPI, America First, all of those great legal groups to help out. But I encourage everyone, if you have family and friends in Virginia or New Jersey, send them to protectthevote.com. That program is up and running, and they've got a lot of people on the ground. On New York, they're using ranked choice voting, guys. So we defeated ranked choice voting here and in multiple other states, but to General Flynn's point, they changed the rules when they can't win on the policies. So with ranked choice voting and less than 30% turnout, there's not a lot we can do but pray for New York. And that's it, Steve. That's what's happening right now. And I just encourage everybody, get involved.
This
at any
meeting
level
is
in the
being
grassroots or
recorded.
with the EI movement.
Thank you very much. Next up, Captain Seth Kessel from Arizona, a great guy. President Trump finally recognized him. We see him on there.
Yes, go ahead, Seth. You're up. Good. Unmute,
All right,
Seth.
sound check, good.
Sound check is good.
All right, so I'd like to reiterate a few things that have been said. Hello, everybody. Recognize a lot of the names from here in Arizona. For those of you who don't know, I moved from Texas to Pima County, Tucson, Arizona, a couple of years ago, and I'm now married to Representative Rachel Keshel, the Arizona state rep from LD17. So I have a front row seat to all the theatrics that happen in the legislature regarding elections. I would also like to point out that the Democrats in Arizona are on their hands and knees with fundraising, having a very difficult time recruiting precinct captains. And it's an opportune time for people to point folks to the precinct strategy model by Dan Schultz, who's done a great job by doing that. All right, so without further ado, I'm going to dive into some slides that I've prepped for this show. Let me see if I can get them up here. Do I have share capabilities?
Yes.
All right. Okay, can you guys see my PowerPoint show? All right, good. So look, the problems that we have primarily, and they stretch from red states to blue states, with elections until they're fully reformed, like President Trump's executive orders sink in. There's another one that's going to be coming down the pipe about mail-in ballots. In order to effect the change that we need to make, especially here in Arizona, we're going to need to get a Republican governor in, number one. There's two big names that are in the race right now, Karen Taylor Robeson and Andy Biggs. Andy Biggs, of course, is supported by the Freedom Caucus, and I have personally discussed with him and his staff that he will undertake all necessary actions to put in a system that makes elections fair. This first slide shows you what I call the 8 cardinal sins of elections. I put this together after the 2024 election. A lot of you may know that after 2020, I spent a lot of time quantifying about how many fraudulent votes I believe were in each county. And I can get that all the way down to the precinct level. These are Harris states. Harris won 19 states plus Washington, D.C. And you can see that one common theme that they have is automatic voter registration to increase the pool of registrations to then outfit with mail-in voting. The Democrats have 6 states that have universal mail-in voting and a lot of other ones that vote by mail excessively. Ballot harvesting goes hand in hand with that. You can see that Harris states had 90 total demerits, these check marks divided by 20, so about 4.5 per blue state. Okay, then you go into the red states and you can see that the election laws are much better. I do believe in the too big to rig theory in the swing states, Michigan, Nevada, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin. I all have very bad marks for election integrity in the 2024 race. Trump overran a lot of states that have excessive mail-in voting. In Arizona, 75% of ballots are cast by mail, which is ridiculous, especially when you come to learn that that was put in place by the Republican Party rooting back decades ago. So when we look at this, recreating or recasting the law is what helps clamp down on fraudulent ballots, which should tell you why in Florida they've had more success with the signature and address verification that they have, where you have to get a mail-in ballot. And here in Arizona, thanks to Katie Hobbs and certain factions within the Republican Party fighting against address verification, we did not get a Florida-style counting bill, even though we lacked the guy who needs to sign it anyway. This is a very damning slide, in my opinion. Automatic voter registration. I think it may be the most damning slide I've ever created, and I've made a lot of them. Kamala Harris only won 5 electoral votes that were not under automatic voter registration. Look at this, the map on the right. This is the one on the left. So if it has automatic voter registration, Harris won those almost 4-1, 221 electoral votes to 64. She only won New Hampshire and Nebraska's 2nd congressional district among states or electoral votes without automatic voter registration. So it's very clear to me why they protect the voter registration files, why they move for automatic. We don't have automatic in Arizona, but we have motor voter, which is pretty much the, it's the gateway drug for states to eventually adopt automatic. The good news in Arizona, given that we now have to win elections with the opponent having a certain cache of fraudulent ballots available. This is the fact. They have a certain number per county where they can defraud. I believe the number is 250 to 300,000 likely extra ballots in Arizona, given changes to the law. This is the current voter registration shift since November of 2022. Remember, Katie Hobbs supposedly won her 16,000 was about 100,000 out, and Blake Masters a little bit behind Mark. The Republicans had 166,000 voter registration edge in November 2022. Right now, that's over 328,000. Hobbs ran 183,000 votes left of the voter registration in 2022. If she did that again, she'd still come up more than 140,000 votes short. So until things change and the laws in Arizona change, the voter registration edge is becoming significant. Candidates have to know what to target. So what I've been spending a lot of time on, I made this for the Gutierrez campaign down here in Arizona, CD7. I'm classifying precincts based on lean. This is useful for knowing which precincts to target, which ones aren't going to matter, which ones are going to swing the race back to even. This seat right here is D plus 23 in registration, is D plus 28 on average in the last two election results. So in order to get to the point where this could be an even race, these purple precincts are my targets. That comes with a pretty detailed information package if it's done for a campaign. And this slide right here shows the Democrat vote shifting since 2016. So the dark green areas, those are areas in which Harris had fewer votes than Hillary Clinton, also known as Native American shift, Latino shift away from the Democrat Party. So helping to identify for candidates or anywhere in legislative districts in Arizona how this is done is an important thing for the intelligence package. So if any of you need me to map things out, I'm paying a professional researcher and mapper to pull data and map these. Then email me at skeshel@protonmail.com. And then finally, if you want to keep up with me and everything I'm doing with elections, you can go to captaink.us and subscribe to my newsletter. Steve, do you want to open up for any questions for me?
No, they don't have questions, but it's in the chat. Anybody could put some in the chat. Just check the chat. I want to congratulate you because I saw a little note that President Trump finally noticed who you are, which I thought was fantastic because you've worked so hard and you do a sensational job. I get a lot of your emails. Want to thank you for everything you're doing. Want people to make sure to email you. Put your email back up again if you could. Definitely Seth Keshel is one of the leading people in election security and information in the United States.
Okay, I just added my email, skeshel@protonmail.com. I'd also like to point out down here in Pima County, there's a pretty serious issue with the recorder here, Gala Cesaris Kelly, that Rachel has busted. She's busted a ballot harvesting ring down here and also noticed the cheating going on in the recorder's office, which I think is going to get DOJ attention. All right. In the interest of time, I will.
Thank you very much. Is Catherine Engelbrecht up there?
Yes.
I am.
All right. Well,
I
we'd
am.
love to have you. We missed you for the last 3 months, so I'm glad. I know you had to go in your car, so you're up.
Great. Thanks, Steve. Thanks, Raj. Thanks to everybody for joining. Yeah, it's an exciting time at True the Vote. We are definitely battening down the hatches and getting ready for 2026. And I guess the things I would point out first, what can really be done between now and 2026? We put out a package of reforms just after President Trump was elected, and you can find that on our website, truethevote.org. Under engage, the very first thing is called the way forward. And I saw some of the comments rolling in that I wanted to address by way of some of the reforms that we put out, because for the longest time we've this is a 1,000-front war, right? And there's so many things. Gina highlighted UOCAVA. She's exactly right. Seth highlighted automatic voter registration. He's exactly right. There are so many areas that need attention, but in many respects, if you think about where it all sort of reverse engineers down to, it's if we can get good, clean voter rolls, that will help a lot. It won't solve everything, but it will help a lot. And that is one area that we could realistically look to for reform prior to the 2026 election. Now, of course, states run elections, and in states where they are less inclined to help keep the voter rolls clean, it's going to be more difficult. But there is federal pressure that can be applied, and certainly leading from the platform that President Trump now has to expose the fact that this should not be an issue. The reason our voter rolls are messed up is because it serves people that serve the politicos and the power brokers that know how to exploit the weakness of the property. Companies are out there resolving identity, residency, and citizenship. There are data companies that do this for other agencies of government, that have blanket purchase orders ready and willing, standing by for secretaries of state to engage. But it's a longer story for a different day as to how that all fell apart. And it fell apart in the early 90s. Lawfare, again, as per usual, caused many of those very reputable companies to just be trampled out of their desire to participate. And that then led to the rise of an organization that most of us on this call are familiar with, I'm sure, called ERIC, which stands for Electronic Registration Information Center. That was a spinoff of the Pew Center on the states. And we've seen over these last few years that more and more states are waking up to the fact that ERIC's promise of keeping the voter rolls clean was in fact a hollow promise, a Trojan horse, because it didn't do anything to solve the reckless abandon of bad data in our voter rolls. There is hope, though, that this can be addressed before 2026, and it's one of the things we lay out in our package of reforms. And I have it on fairly good authority that it's being considered, not our plan, just broadly a plan to help improve voter rolls. There's so many other things that True the Vote's working on. I would encourage you to go check us out at truethevote.org. If you're not already signed up for our newsletter, you can do that at the website. We're going to be introducing new tools like the one I'm most excited about is called LegiTrack. And it's actually, I don't even know if it's up on our website yet, but you can look at it at LegiTrack, which is LEGITRACK.org. And what we've done is put together a platform that evaluates all election related legislation. Most people would be surprised to understand how many thousands of bills are circulated and either passed or vetoed over the course of any given legislative. The full court press that our elections are constantly under. It's not just what happens during election season, but it's what happens in the off season in legislatures all over the country. And so what we wanted to do is build a platform that people could come see what's happening, get informed, keep track of the bills. We're super excited about that. IV3, which is a long-standing effort of ours to evaluate voter rolls, honestly has been down for since the election, and it's largely just due to the fact that we have limited resources, as we all do, and we are still fighting several lawsuits. And so our decision has been to apply the resources there to hopefully win and move on from these lawsuits, and then put our muscle back behind IV3, which is a heavy lift. But for any of you that are out there, maybe developers at heart, and you're wanting to look, you can look at our GitHub repo of all of the open source code that we've put out, where we've normalized across all states, so that you can take any state's voter rolls and get it to talk to any other state. That was a heavy lift, and we placed that out there for anybody that wants to avail themselves of it and build on top of it. But more than anything, I think the message for me today, and I always love being a part of these, and Steve and Raj, thanks for putting them together, is just that it takes a real community that sticks together through rain, sleet, or snow. It is not easy. This work is granular. It is tireless, oftentimes thankless, but it is true. The foundation of our republic rests upon a free and fair process. Everything we argue about presupposes a free and fair election. So hats off to everybody speaking on this call. Hats off to everybody that's taking the time to participate. We are all in it together. And Steve, I'll be glad to cede for any questions anyone has.
In the chat, because we got a lot of people today, so we got to bring on other people as we go.
Sure.
Thank you.
All right.
Have a
Thanks
good
so
trip.
much.
You
Thanks
got
so
it.
much. Bye,
All
guys.
right.
Yes, I'm
Raj,
here.
you there? All right. So a couple of things that we want to say. I got an announcement that I think is terrific. While I got on Bannon today, and I didn't even know this, but I just got a notice from him that Heather Honey, one of our grassroots people, has been appointed Deputy Assistant Secretary at DHS for election integrity. That means that they're actually using grassroots people finally to get into the Trump campaign and Trump administration to represent us for what we have to do. So that's a great achievement. I got
Fantastic.
a note from Cleta Mitchell, who I'm hoping that she gets something too, because she's fantastic. So that's great news. Let's bring up if Shelby Bush is ready.
You good,
You got
Shelby?
her?
Yes, I'm good. Hello, everybody. Thank you, Steve and Raj, for having me today. I'm probably going to echo a lot of what was already said today. For those of you that don't know me, I'm the chairman of We the People AZ Alliance, now changing to We the People USA Alliance. We're most known for the work that we did in the Carrie Lake case and the Abe Hamadeh case. We did the data research, the investigative work, and the legal aspects of those two cases. Two of my biggest talking points, I guess you could say, come from what we learned in those two cases, and that is signature verification mail-in ballots. So the danger of mail-in ballots, and also what the motor vehicle department is doing to our voters. So those are two things that I'm very, very excited that President Trump has come out and made some bold statements about mail-in ballots. It is a very, very hot subject for me, and our organization had an opportunity to do something that many haven't, and that was that we were able to gain access to the mail-in ballot affidavit envelopes for the 2020 election for Maricopa County through the Senate. And through that, we were able to expose that at least 20% of mail-in ballots are illegitimate or should have never been counted. And a lot of them were accepted after the deadlines. Many of them were clear forgeries. They're abusing the special election boards, which is designed for handicapped voters. So mail-in ballots are a real problem. I got a lot of grief in 2024 because I was still speaking out against mail-in ballots. And I know there was a big push to, ballot chase. And I understand we have to outvote the cheat. But I don't want to take our eye off the prize. We will never have fair and honest elections if we do not eliminate mail-in voting, especially no excuse mail-in voting. I want to add to that many people don't realize that in 2020 in Maricopa County alone, over 1 million people received 2 or more mail-in ballots. In 2022, over 25,000 people received 2 or more mail-in ballots in Maricopa County. And in 2024, we were back up to over 100,000 people receiving 2 or more mail-in ballots. So what does that mean? What that means is these excessive ballots, they have what's called a piece ID, right? So they'll mail you your ballot number 1, and then for some reason you need a second ballot, it'll be number 2. Well, a lot of people are under the misconception that first ballot is just voided and it can never be counted. But the truth of the matter is that isn't the case. Those mail-in ballots can still be accepted. And what we saw is many, many cases where 2 or more mail-in ballots were returned. Well, as you know, based on the systems, only one of them is counted. How do you as a voter know which one was counted? If there are 3 mail-in ballots, 2 rejected and 1 counted under your name, how do you know that the one you voted is the one that was received first or counted first, right? So this is a huge, huge problem. A lot of this goes back to, I'm sure everybody here is familiar with an organization called Runback. So Runback is a ballot printing company. They also do ballot mailing for mail-in ballots for many counties in over 100 counties across the US. They just purchased a company called Global Mobile. This did not make headline news, but I've been screaming it from the rooftops. Global Mobile is the technology behind text to cure. For those of you that don't know what that is, if your signature doesn't match, they'll text you, you upload your driver's license, and voila, we're going to count that vote. We don't care if you signed it or not. So Runbeck has now purchased that. Text to Cure and Global Mobile was actually designed from what is to me tremendously scary, and that is the text to vote platform. Global Mobile was designed for the text to vote, system, and because the American people didn't really have a huge appetite for it, they went into the text to cure space. This is going to desensitize voters in a tremendous way. It's incredibly dangerous. And the Secretary of State, Adrian Fontes in Arizona, has now put in his draft EPM mandatory text messaging for ballots that need cured. So this is going to increase fraud for seniors. This is going to increase ballot fraud. Very, very dangerous stuff. This is a coordinated effort to shift us into digital voting. As Gina had said, they're already testing it right now for UACAVA voters. This is a clear violation of law, and I hope someone withstanding does step up and handle this. The other issue that I think is really important is the motor voter. This has been brought up a few times in the state of Arizona. In Abe Hamadeh's case, we found over 9,000 voters across the entire state of Arizona who were forced to vote provisional because Service Arizona and the MVD system actually canceled or altered their voter registrations without their consent or knowledge. Their voter registration was canceled, they were re-registered in other counties, or they just simply disappeared from the voter rolls. We have declarations, affidavits, all the data to back it, but the courts wouldn't hear it. We need to make a concerted effort to utilize the precinct committee strategy that Dan Schultz is talking about, because we have an obligation to inform these voters. We have to reach out to the voters. If we have 9,000 voters in Arizona and probably over 1 million across this country that show up on election day and find out they are not registered to vote, how is that going to affect us? Abe Hamadeh lost that race, and I'm using that in quotations, by 281 votes. I have thousands of declarations of people who have voted from their residence for over 40 years, had just voted in the primary, and were denied their vote in 2022. So we have to inform and educate voters. They need to check their voter status. It is absolutely critical, because it doesn't matter how many people we drive to the poll. If they show up there and they're denied the right to vote, then we're in big trouble. This disproportionately affected right-leaning conservative independents and Republicans, 70% to 30% in the data. So this is clearly something that more affects us as the conservative side of the situation. And then I think one more thing I'd really like to touch on is I'm a huge fan of the precinct strategy. We need people out at the doors. We ran Julie McElwain and myself and other committee members, Patty Porter. We had a bunch of great people working together in a committee for Congressional District 7 special election that is ongoing here in Arizona. And what we did is
The recording has stopped.
We found some target groups, and we took those target groups and we touched every single door. And then we monitored, was that touch a lit drop? Did we just drop off literature? Or did we
This
actually
meeting is
speak to the
being
voter?
recorded.
What we found is that every voter that we had meaningful contact with, either through our phone bank or in person, that we had 119% increase in voter turnout. So 2.5 times the voters in each specific category turned out if they had meaningful contact. We also are able to identify through that same process those fraudulent voters. So when you've got precincts out handling their 125 accountability lists, and you've got people out knocking those doors, not only are we engaging voters and building relationships, but we are also identifying people who should not be on the voter rolls. So it's a win-win all the way around. So thanks, Dan Schultz, for the precinct strategy. And we need to continue to recruit people on the ground. This is about relationships. The Democrats have done it for generations. We are behind in this. And if we don't start educating our voters, we are going to be in real trouble. If they don't know what their rights are to vote, if they don't know how to make sure that their vote's going to count on election day, we're in huge trouble. So with that, I'm going to close on the fact we have to get rid of mail-in ballots. Everybody should make that a top priority. We need to get back to precinct voting and eliminate these horrible voting centers. And, you know, we've been working very closely with Mark Cook at Hand Count Roadshow, and we have an incredible hand count method. We've been promoting that all across the country. If we're not prepared, we all scream one day, one vote, paper ballots, hand count. But if we're not prepared to do it when that day comes, we're going to be in real trouble. So start preparing, start living in the world that you want it to look like. So when it happens, we're all prepared. And so much for having me on the call.
quite
I
welcome.
really
Thank you for being here. Urson Russell from California. You want to
Great.
unmute yourself?
Well,
We
thank you
can.
so much. I'll just jump right into it here. I'm in California, and boy, just hearing all the different states and the challenges. There's so many consistencies, and so I'll just touch on some of the stuff in California. Like most states, we've got a very centrally controlled system that's here. We have a system in 2016 called VoteCal, and that's what really started to centrally control the state voter registration list with the counties. And so today the counties really are following a process, whether it's through the change of address or through vital statistics, DMV records, and other things that all comes through the state. And what happens to them at the state and how they get down to the county, there's not a lot of transparency on that. So that's affecting our voter rolls within the state system. In the VoteCal system, we do have an API that allows outside organizations. So I would suggest for people in the fight to try and figure out who else has access to your state voter registration record. So like Rock the Vote is a perfect example. A lot of people have been to a concert, gone out and registered to vote. Well, in California, that they have direct access to our actual voter registration list to directly register people. So that's another area of concern. Like many states in California, we're giving non-citizens driver's licenses and IDs here in California. And we have the automated voter system like many states do, where you are
The recording has stopped.
you're automatically registered to vote when you get your ID or driver's license, and you have to actually opt out of that. It's you have to check a box to not be registered to vote. So through the DMV process, when we look at registrations, one of the biggest things that we see is that is predominantly where the missing birthplaces are coming from in our registration records. It's not a requirement to use in our voter registration records, but most of the no birthplace records are coming through the DMV. So just following that and tracking it, and my county in Orange, where I'm at, estimates 60 to 70,000 changes a month to the voter registration record. So from a logistics perspective, to get the rolls, to analyze the rolls, to send out canvassers, to knock on doors, to create a report, to go in and address that with the county ROV, you know, if that takes you 30 days, you can imagine the tens of thousands of changes that have already happened to those records. UACAVA, similar to other states, what we experienced here in the 24 election, had about 100 to 120 observers that were down, not at the polls, but at the actual ballot processing center. And I would encourage other states, we definitely need to have poll workers there to help with whatever might disenfranchise a voter at the local vote center or precinct location. But most states have a majority of their votes are being cast, vote by mail, not voting in person. So if that's where a majority of the votes are being processed, then we need to go and get a lot of eyes in there, and a lot of new eyes. One of the most extraordinary things that happened was people that had observed polling at elections, participated in elections for 20, 30 years. But until you actually see the ballot processing operation and the million plus ballots that go through that process, 75,000 ballot sheets were duplicated simply because in California, the ballot has to be scanned through a ballot scanner. That's part of our state law. And if you put a check or an X or a star or a happy face, the county deems that the scanner won't scan that, and therefore that ballot sheet needs to be duplicated by either a machine process or by hand. So we were watching the duplication process of the UOCAVA voters and of the other ballot forms. And when we saw the other ballot duplications, there was always a random outcome. So we would track 100 ballots. This batch would favor Harris. This batch would favor Trump. But when we track the UOCAVA, and if that is something observable in your state, sounds like some states it's not, I would suggest getting some people there with some tally sheets to actually track the UOCAVA, because of the batches that we tracked over weeks, we never once found a batch of the UOCAVA ballots that favored Donald Trump. Every single batch that we recorded and tallied favored Kamala Harris. And oftentimes it was 90 votes to 10. So that's something else for maybe you to look out for in other states. We've done canvassing across the state for election integrity. We've been doing the, whether it's the issue with the agent being incorrect or people being too many people at a registered address, commercial properties. We've dug into all those things. And what we've come down to is that the register of voters that we deal with and work with across the state, we do have some that like to work with us quite closely, but there's a bureaucratic process that's there where the register of voters feel more beholden to the Secretary of State and the laws than they do, say, to the actual local voting populace. And what's an example of that? In California, you cannot require an ID to vote, but it's not against the law to ask for one. So we've asked one particular ROV, and I won't point out who they were. I'm not trying to publicly shame them, but said, hey, we'd like you to ask for ID. Well, I can't do that. It's against the law. No, it's against the law to require it. And then the whole conversation shifts and the bureaucratic side comes in, and it's, well, I wouldn't want to do something to possibly, hurt the certification of the election or so forth. So that is consistent across the counties that we've at least worked with registers of voters. We do have one county up north that's gotten a new register of voter that we're hoping, I don't want to, again, call him out, but he's been very effective in the election integrity space for many years. And so we're hoping that we had one northern county that's going to really turn some things around. Outside of that, what's our solution in California? We have certain party chapters that are starting to pay much more attention to election integrity. But what we're seeing here, besides educating the public, is we've got to educate our elected officials and our candidates that are coming up for 2026. And we've got to ask those questions and vet them early. Because if your candidate doesn't understand election integrity and how that affects his election or the voting populace or defending our civil rights, then they need a very, very quick, stern education to bring them up to speed and to know what you expect of them when you get in office or when they get into office, if they're going to earn your vote. And so in California, we have 400 plus cities. And I really think that for our future security here in California's elections, we're going to have to en masse start to really educate the cities and just to show them, look at this, look at your own registration rolls in your city. You have 500 and something people that are over 125 years old. Why? Why do we have that? And we want you to be the one that's fighting for us and demanding that the county goes and fixes it. Because when we ask, it gets fixed, but the problem just repeats itself. So it's very similar. All the fights, I just will tell everyone this is not a destination. We've all woken up to our civic duty. We've woken up to that evil is never going to stop, and that this country is worth fighting for, and our posterity and future generations, and all these wonderful gifts that have been given to us by our founder and by God himself, helping us have this great nation. So it gets tough sometimes. We have good days, we have bad days, but just never give up. This community that we're building, that we're educating each other and others, we're staying committed to this, to the long fight. And I'm so happy and pleased and blessed to be a part of this amazing community. So Thank you very much, Steve, for the chance to talk about California.
You
today,
got it.
sir.
Thanks for coming on. Before we get our next guest on, just want to let you all know, Dan Schultz, who's on here, great precinct strategy guy, and myself will be doing a great event on Tuesday, September 30th at 1 p.m. We will have one person from every state for precinct strategy. And Dan will be on for 15 minutes talking about precinct strategy. Steve Bannon said he's going to try to get on, and we have General Flynn, who said he would ask President Trump to come on. So that's fantastic. So Urson, thank you very much. Took a long time to get you on, but we finally made it. So thank you very much. Next, we're going to have Greg Dutton on, who is the chairman in Arizona. Greg, come on down.
Hi, Steve. Thanks for having me on, and thanks for doing this call. I am the chair of Legislative District 12. We're the largest 1,000 independents, 50,000 Democrats, and 49,000 Republicans. We're going to do everything possible this year to shift that to Republicans. As you can see from the national news, depending on who you read, we're seeing a shift from anywhere from 2.1 to 4.3 million Democrats leaving the Democrat Party and joining the Republican Party. And we really hope to capitalize on that momentum. I just want to also mention that I'm a product of the precinct strategy. Dan Schultz was in our district before he left and went out of state. And I just want to say thank you, Dan. And constantly plugging the precinctstrategy.com. We are definitely always recruiting and looking to bring on new solid grassroots precinct committeemen. We are fully in support of Trump's agenda, including eliminating mail-in balloting, mail-in voting, cleaning the voter rolls, closing all doors to election vulnerabilities. One of the ways that I've led our district is we pulled together a precinct captain summit, and we developed our 2026 strategic plan for LD12. And after showing it to a few other district chairs and discussing it with a couple of others outside of the GOP, there's never been anything quite as extensive. Our detailed strategic plan gets into candidate recruiting, voter registration, get out the vote, and supporting every effort to chase the vote, including working with third-party organizations. We need force multipliers. In addition to the precinct committeemen that we bring on board, and we work very, very hard, our precinct committeemen, I'm very, very proud of LD12. We have a really solid, cohesive team. Everything from signage, putting up signs and bringing them down, and getting out the vote and registering voters. We really do need to take advantage of every opportunity to work with third-party organizations. In the last election cycle, one of the challenges that we had was we had third-party organizations working in our district, but we didn't know exactly what they were doing, and we didn't have a really solid open channel of communication with them. I'm changing that. We are changing that in our district this year. We not only want to know what each other is doing, we want to make sure that we're not duplicating efforts, knocking on the same voters' doors to chase the ballots, that sort of thing, and helping each other. So again, it's all about force multipliers and just knowing what each other are doing. And part of that is Turning Point Action informed me. And my first vice chair, Patty Porter, and fourth vice chair, Kurt Gearhart, and I, we met with Tyler Boyer at Turning Point Action a few weeks ago, and we learned that they're hiring 19 full-time workers just for Chase the Vote and also voter registration in LD12. We really do need that help. We're 20,000 Republicans, 20,000 votes underwater right now, and that's what we need to change. We need to make that shift. As part of that, I shared our strategic plan with Tyler Boyer, and TP Action put together a Chase the Vote field guide for us for LD12, in addition to their statewide plan for Chase the Vote. And it's got some very good statistics in there, and I appreciate that from Tyler and Turning Point Action. So we're incorporating that as part of our plan overall. So I covered working with third-party organizations. There's others that we're going to be reaching out to, but it really boils down to, do you want out-of-state uniparty big donors affecting our elections here, or do you want to work with somebody that's local that really truly is aligned with Trump's agenda? And that's what it boils down to for us. So we're, in addition to what I mentioned in our strategic plan, We are training hand counters. At our last district meeting, I asked for a show of hands of all those who have participated in any one of our hand counts in any way, either at the state annual meetings or the county annual meetings under Shelby Bush's leadership and Mark Cook's assistance there. We had quite a showing of hands at my district of people who are actively trained in hand counting and eager to continue on in that fight. And with Trump's announcements, that pressure we're getting from the federal level now, we really, truly do believe we need to be prepared at the precinct level to do hand count, period. So we're going to do everything we can to get more individuals trained and also to prepare supervisors, good, solid supervisors. So in doing so, we're working with other LDs and the Maricopa County Republican Committee. In addition, we're doing candidate town halls. We've had Andy's like this coming up. Those are really important. One of the struggles I have in LD12 is recruiting good candidates. I think that our good, solid conservative candidates have been, they've been a little gun shy after the last few elections. I don't think anybody wants to run in a corrupt election system. So election integrity and getting rid of mail-in balloting is absolutely imperative, in my opinion, to bringing on good candidates. So in addition, we're working with individuals with specific expertise on contracts, examining the contracts that we have with the county, specifically Runbeck and Dominion contracts, and educating our Maricopa County Board of Supervisors and our legislators on that. I mean, who in the right mind?
This meeting is being recorded.
Who in the right mind thinks it's a great idea to give a monopoly contract to a single company to handle all of our ballots from cradle to grave, from printing to final scan, and then grant them immunity from public oversight? Runbeck. So that's the kind of thing we're looking at. That's what needs to change in addition to eliminating mail-in balloting. So this is not the time, and I'll just end with this. This is not the time for our political leaders to be talking with Democrats, moderates. This is, the Democrat Party is on their heels. They are crumbling under the weight of their own corruption. This is the time to absolutely crush the Democrat Party. We can make bread, break bread with them after we win and we have full control over Congress. The last thing I'll mention is that Epoch Times just opened a new office in LD12, and we're meeting tomorrow with the MCRC headquarters and at the MCRC headquarters to meet with Shelby Bush, and we're hoping that we'll get some more good, positive press from that. So thank you all. And I think I'm done with my time. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Greg. You always help us. You always get us people. We certainly appreciate it. If people want to get a hold of you, how do they get a hold of you?
My email address is chair@ld12gop.org, and you can go to our website at ld12gop.org. Thank you.
Thanks very much. I want to thank also John Goodman, who helps me under the Florida Election Integrity Commission. We got him on a lot of Zooms. He's working on getting rid of the mail-in ballots, which he has done many times, getting through to President Trump, through Lindell and many other people. So he was the first one to really bring that up. So we appreciate that. Next up is one of our favorites, Liz Sinkowitz. Liz, you want to come on?
I'm Steve. Hi. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate it. I'm with Fight Voter Fraud, and it's Linda Sinkowitz. We have been doing so much behind the scenes. There's a lot of stuff we wish we can talk about, but one thing I will tell you is we actually are seeing movement in investigations of people who have been double voting across the country. We've been working really hard with a number of states and a number of investigators. So we're thrilled about that. At some point, we will be able to give you an update with everything, but as with investigations, it takes time, but we're actually being acknowledged now, which is fantastic. So another thing along those lines, we have a system, as many of you may know, that we can actually give you for free potential people who have double registered and double voted. You just need to go to our website, fightvoterfraud.org. That's .org. And there's a form for you to request it. And what we do is we actually do an analysis of who potentially has been double registered / double voted in your community, in your county, in your state. We've had a tremendous amount of people requesting it. Last year, we had every single state request it. This is just a tool to help you out, to give you an idea potentially what is going on within your community. We also offer some other services as well. We do training for those who want to know how to do the deep dive and getting the evidence that you need to actually bring forward to law enforcement or the investigative agencies. So at fightvoterfraud.org, and our website again is. Another thing we have been having a lot of success on is I have a program called Sinkowitz. It's spelled phonetically for my last name. It's on OBBM Network TV. And we do once a week, we have interviews, and I also talk about a number of different states. I talk about 6 states every week with stuff that's in the news. I do something national, and I also have a more in-depth story on vote notes, which you can also find on our website as well. But we're just really thrilled with everything. After 6.5 years of working on this, we actually figured out how to do a number of different things. And we do want to help out other organizations. So if you're interested in anything that we're working on, you can also email again, info@fightvoterfraud.org. The email will get to me. And we definitely appreciate everything Steve is doing and Raj in pulling this together. Plus, everyone who has been speaking today has been fantastic. Thank you so much, Steve. And
Thanks a lot, Linda. And now up is Liz Harris from Arizona.
Hi, thank you, Steve. Thank you, Raj. It's been a while since I've been on. I think I bring a very unique perspective to what's happening here in Arizona. So for those of you who haven't met me, in 2020, we did a canvas in December of 2020, and we found tons of anomalies after we realized that there was a problem with the voter registration records in November of 2020. We went ahead and we did that canvas, and there were thousands upon thousands of people who signed up. Hundreds and hundreds became active. We had people come from all across the United States to help us, but the people of Arizona were really fired up. So we did that, and then I went ahead and I ran for state legislature. Now, the reason I'm bringing this up, I was expelled from the legislature, for those of you who don't know, but it's very interesting because I'm the person who carried 12 phenomenal election integrity bills. And so before I end my little presentation here today, I want to make sure that everyone understands that the Republican electeds, or should I say the Republican selecteds, the majority of them were not in favor of the precinct voting and the strong voter ID, getting rid of machines, hand counts. And I was behind the curtain with them. So I know what everyone said, and I know that we definitely have a problem at the Arizona legislature. And we're going to have the PCs. I hope part of the PC strategy will be that PCs and the constituents of Arizona basically push back on the Arizona legislature to get the correct election laws passed. Not things to make us feel good, but real, true election integrity reform. Now, last Monday, it was literally about 24 to 48 hours before the RNC meeting started. So after I was expelled, I was elected as the National Committee Woman for the state of Arizona. I am very, very grateful for this position, and I take it extremely seriously. So President Trump put out on social media, I'm just going to read the first sentence. And he writes, I'm going to lead a movement to get rid of mail-in ballots, and also, while we're at it, highlight inaccurate inaccurate, very expensive, and 10 times more than accurate and sophisticated. And he goes on. Now, this was put out right before the RNC meeting started. We met at the summer meetings in Atlanta, Georgia. And I'll say the National Committee woman of the state of Texas had a resolution to support what President Trump put out there. And unfortunately, the RNC, it is to the best of my knowledge, worked overtime not to allow that resolution to come to the floor. We had other resolutions recognizing all the people who had passed. Those were very nice, but they basically gave the excuse, I'm sorry, but you needed to submit this 10 days before. So if the RNC is truly supporting President Donald J. Trump's agenda, which I hope they are, I think they would have made an exception for this resolution. There was also something else that happened during the RNC meetings that I wanted to bring to your attention, that this truth that Trump put out, the temporary committee on election integrity, the committee didn't really talk about it. And you know, I'm not asking to chair the committee. I think it's really funny that I was not put on the election integrity committee at the RNC. I did request it. But we're not talking about one day, one vote, getting rid of the machines. And the same RNC staff members, not all of them, but a lot of them, who were basically staffed under Rona McDaniels. Okay, we all kind of had a little issue with her, including Mike Lindell, right? It's the same staff people. And typically the staff, no matter where you are in life, the staff are the people who pretty much guide the volunteers or the electeds. That's just how this country works. So when we have the same people in play, are we really trying to get us to the point of one day, one vote, paper ballots, no machines, hand counts, etc.? That is a question I put out to you. The other interesting thing that happened at the RNC is that there was a motion to move the temporary election integrity committee to a permanent committee. And we should have been able to take a simple vote on that, but of course it got tabled, and now we're going to do a work group on why it, you know, and so I hope I'm preaching to the choir here. So one of my most interesting conversations with a gentleman from New Hampshire. Okay, so President Trump has a lot of executive orders, right? And these are powerful election integrity executive orders. The issue is that these will affect federal elections. Now, for the grassroots in Arizona, we want those executive orders to affect state elections as well, but we have something called state rights. So every state needs to pass the appropriate legislation to truly get election reform. Where is the stopgap? Where is the problem? So the gentleman I spoke with from New Hampshire, he is like, well, the state of New Hampshire, we're just gonna make sure our state follows the federal. Well, you know, it's a no-brainer. The difficulty that I see here in Arizona, when I was a legislator for Legislative District 13, by the way, I'm also the chair of Legislative District 13 right now. The problem that I see is that too many of the Republican legislators gave me all the excuses in the world for why we can't do one day, one vote, smaller precincts, paper ballots, no machines. And their excuses were, there's no way we can hand count them all. There's no way we can get the volunteers. And it was just a constant excuse. So in my humble opinion, it's the selected electeds who do not want to see the change. And the only way to change this is where Dan Schultz comes in, precinct strategy. So last night, as I chaired my Legislative District 13, I made basically a goal. And I said, right now we are at 60% capacity, meaning 60% of our precinct committeeman slots are full. By the 2026 election, I would like to see 90% of our slots filled, because the greater the workforce, the more precincts that we do not have without PC representation, the better our chances of getting good Republicans to run, good Republicans to win. But we really want the non-establishment, the true people, really the people that represent the people of Arizona. And that is what I have been fighting for the last almost 5 years now. And that is what I will commit to continue fighting. Thank you so much, Steve. Thanks, Raj. It was a pleasure.
Thanks very much, Liz. We appreciate you coming on. We'd also like to thank a number of people. You know, every time I tell you that there are people that are viewing and putting our election security call on their streams. First one, we want to thank Steve Bannon, who is the first guy to put us on. He's got the War Room and he's on Getter. He had me on the program today and he got a ton of people on. Probably have 60,000 people watching on that. Want to thank Jody Cox, just Jody. She was the first person I interviewed and the first person that interviewed me when she started a program. Short time, there's 10 to 20,000 people on. Daniel Walker, one of the first people that started to Zoom our Zoom. State of Freedom. Ben Miller in Nevada. America Happens. We have today Cloud Hub, which gets a ton of people on. Lindell TV, Stern American, Twitter. Rumble is putting us on the front page. So you see we have many, many people helping us. Now, next Wednesday, myself and Michelle Swinick are hosting for all podcasters to get together so we can introduce them to each other. I will send out to every one of our podcasters, over 200, to get together. If you know any podcasters that you want to get on, this is tremendous because how we spread this from 600 people to 6 to 8 million people was by getting everybody to help. So thank you very much, all the podcasts that are streaming. And our next guest is Daniel Richard from New Hampshire. Daniel, come on down. See if you can unmute.
I think I'm good to go now.
You are. Go ahead.
Well, thank you so much for the invitation. I'm honored to be here. And a little bit of background. I'm up here in the beautiful state of New Hampshire where we have lots of voter fraud. It had been going on a long time. I uncovered that since 1979 that we've not had a lawful election in the state, and they've been using absentee voting and voting machines to conceal illegal, unverified, uncertified absentee ballots. So last year, I argued this all the way to the state Supreme Court last year, and I believe I'm told by several people that I'm the only remaining litigant in court right now who still has a case in the courts over 2020. And the state, like I said, the state Supreme Court found I had standing on 5 specific issues. And they are one, that I have rights under the equal protection provision of the state and the U.S. Constitution, the 14th Amendment. And also that there's a disparity. We have the use of voting machines in an unequal manner. We have 103 towns that count by hand, yet we have 135 that use voting machines. And so it's clearly an unequal application. And under the federal elections law, you've got to be in compliance. And so there's a deviation there. So they recognize that as a problem. Also, the issue of counting ballots, and also the inability to verify them on recount. And then lastly, the 5th item, certifying the election with unverified, uncertified absentee ballots. So the key to all of this is redefining the word affidavit. And I would submit to your audience that the short explanation here is, I know this happened in Arizona as well, is that when absentee ballots are to be counted at the state level, they have to be examined to make sure that the affidavit on the outside or the inner envelope before opening it is properly executed. And if it's not, they're supposed to write defective, failure to execute a proper affidavit, and not even remove the ballot from the envelope. But in this case, they've trained all our local election officials, the Secretary of State and the Attorney General's office have redefined the word affidavit, which is 500 years old. So it's just preposterous that they've gone down this path. And that's, the nature of the interference. So what this leads to is an unequal application of the election laws. Just like it's now coming to reality, we've heard it a lot in the news, Steve, as you know, that the Chinese were printing IDs. They were also printing absentee ballots. And this is what the state legislature was doing to permit this to happen. We had an increase because of this technique of using the absentee ballots and redefining the word affidavit and using the machines at the same time. Normally in New Hampshire, we only had a 4% turnout for absentee voters. In this case, it led to an increase of 32%. They had because of COVID, we had all types of BS excuses. My babysitter won't show up. My boss won't let me off of work. The weather's bad. Religious exemption. All of these unconstitutional, creating a new class of voter, mail-in voters. So that's the backstory with my case here in New Hampshire. Do you have any questions for me, Steve?
No questions at all. Give us some more information about what's happening with New Hampshire as far as people volunteering, et cetera, et cetera.
There's a lot of people on the ground now, still moving to all the things I heard leading into my time with you this afternoon, and get out the vote, educating voters, getting people more involved at the local level. Look, a government of the people, by the people, for the people has to be made up of an educated citizenry that's engaged and involved, because the bottom line is if you don't participate in the process, other people show up in our place and make decisions about our lives that we don't necessarily appreciate. And, back to my case for a minute, that moves forward. I filed my brief to the state Supreme Court and headed back for a third time. On remand last year, the court went ahead and the trial court, it completely ignored the Supreme Court remand order and ordered the state defendants to file new motions to dismiss, which that had already been argued. They'd already lost before the Supreme Court. It was total BS. And that process led to the trial court dismissing the case again. So now we're headed back to the Supreme Court for a second time. So that's about what I've got to say here from New Hampshire.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Let's keep New Hampshire in good shape. Next on is Marissa Hamilton from Arizona.
Hello,
Marissa, come on down.
everyone. Thank you so much for having me on. I hope you can hear me okay. I'm at the airport. I've been on tour on the bus tour with Jenny Beth Martin at Tea Party Patriots for the Only Citizens Vote bus tour. It is so important that you contact your senators and tell them to pass the SAVE Act. Even though the senators in Arizona are lunatic radical left Democrats, still contact them and let them make your voices known and let them know that we need to pass the SAVE Act. You can go to demandonlycitizensvote.com. That's demandonlycitizensvote.com to click the call to action, click get involved, and there's lots of options that you can participate, including texting your friends and family, asking them to participate and sign the petition. On September 10th, I will be joining Jenny Beth Martin and the Tea Party Patriots down in Washington, D.C., along with our amazing Congressman Abe Hamadeh and others at the Capitol in D.C., and we will be delivering those signed petitions to the Senate, to Congress. We need to make sure that we have the SAVE Act passed and that it's added to must-pass legislation. Some other things that we have going on in Arizona. My organization is called EasyAZ.org. And right now we are in the fight of our lives with our radical left Secretary Fontes, who just released an election procedures manual, which is absolutely bonkers. There's a ton of bad stuff in it. I think Shelby mentioned it when she was speaking. And so we'll be doing a call to action on that. Hopefully we'll have it loaded tomorrow or by Friday at easyaz.org/action. And tonight, if you're available at 6:30 p.m., you can either come in person if you're in the Phoenix area or online. We have a special High Club meeting where we have the early vote election director, Ray Valenzuela, who has been very controversial in the past. I worked with Liz on the deceased voter effort because he said that it was folklore that deceased voters were getting their ballots. And we identified deceased voters getting ballots and then got an indictment of voter fraud from that effort. Well, he'll be coming to our Pie Club meeting tonight. He works at the recorder's office, and so we'll be able to ask him all the questions that I've been wanting to ask him for almost a decade now about the ins and outs of how early voting really works, how signature verification works. I have lots of different ideas that I want to improve these processes. But ultimately, like what Liz said, we need to change the law to adopt President Trump's election integrity agenda. Until then, we need to hold our elected officials accountable. We also will be having James Rogers, attorney James Rogers from America First Legal. He is our attorney at EZAZ. Right now, we are suing Yavapai County over drop boxes because drop boxes are not in our law. That's a figment of the election procedures manual that we don't. The mechanism that they have, that they've put in at the Election Assistance Commission, where you can do public comments to tell them that we want proof of citizenship to be added to the federal only voter registration form. This is critical because every single state right now has loopholes where people can register to vote without having to show proof of citizenship. Now, it's not good enough. We need it codified in the Senate, but in the meantime, please go to ezaz.org/action and do the call to action to put in a public comment at the Election Assistance Commission and tell them we want the proof of citizenship required on the federal only voter registration form. It's super, super important we do that. And then finally, if you're, or actually there's two more things that I have really fast. Within Maricopa County, we were able to fire the terrible Stephen Richer as the recorder last year, and we now have recorder Justin Heap, and I'm super excited because he is a fighter, man. He is part of the Freedom Caucus, and right now he is suing the Board of Supervisors because they have withheld all of the resources, his budget, his staff, his technology, everything that he needs to be able to clean the voter rolls, and they're even denying him his responsibilities over early voting. Now, none of us like early voting, but if you had a choice between the Board of Supervisors and Freedom Caucus, super election integrity Justin Heap, I think we'd all rather have Justin Heap over early voting. Well, Maricopa County, they're up to their usual shenanigans and they are trying to deny him everything. He's in court right now, and so please keep a prayer for him. His attorney is James Rogers from America First Legal, who I think is one of the best election integrity attorneys in the nation. And so please let your friends and family know and tell the Board of Supervisors that you support Justin Heap and you want him to have his responsibilities back. Fortunately, the legislature, both the state legislature, Speaker Steve Montenegro and Senate President Warren Peterson, both put in an amicus brief clarifying that Arizona law is that the recorder is supposed to have the responsibilities that they have assigned to the recorder, and that it is their opinion that the Board of Supervisors is breaking the law. So that's huge. I hope that strengthens Justin's case so that he can get that, get all his responsibilities and budgets and everything restored. Please contact Debbie Lesko. She pretends to be MAGA. She's on the Board of Supervisors, but she is on board with preventing Justin Heap from his duties. And another thing that Debbie Lesko has done, and along with Thomas Galvin on the board, is that they have pushed forward the sham election integrity audit. It's not real. They've used a company that they picked that has done their dirty bidding in the past. They're giving them $400,000, and they're going to keep doing that annually to audit their systems and their processes so that they can basically just put a little check mark on the Maricopa County's voting systems without any actual real criticism or a real look under the hood of what's going wrong. Interestingly enough, Heather Honey, who just got appointed to DHS for President Trump to be in charge of election integrity efforts there, she had put in to do that effort at Maricopa County, and they rejected her. And Debbie Lesko rejected her. So let the board know that they're still not on the right track, that they are against President Trump, and that we need all hands on deck to save Arizona. And I'll close with the fact that I am personally supporting Alex Collin for Secretary of State. He is one of the best election integrity advocates we have in the state. So if you're not helping with any campaign, or even if you are, please lend some time to Alex Colladin and help him get over the line. We have got to fire Adrian Fontes. We have to get Andy Biggs in there as governor. And those two are going to do a huge job, tremendous job at making sure we can secure our elections. And then of the candidates for AG, I think Warren Peterson has a stronger track record on election integrity. So I'm personally supporting him. So get behind the candidates that are supporting election integrity. Let's take back Arizona. Thank you for all your hard work, everyone. I am so proud of all the work everyone is doing. You are incredible. And thank you, Steve, for giving me some time today.
Sure.
Go to easyaz.org.
Anything else you have from Arizona? How is things working out as far as people getting involved, et cetera, et cetera? We got a few minutes.
I think we're on a good track record for, did I have 10 minutes?
Yeah,
Then-
you still got a few more minutes, right?
Okay, then I'll talk about the other things we have going on. I didn't want to take too much time today.
No, you've got a few more minutes.
All right, so we have a lot of other things going on with election integrity at easyaz.org right now. We are sending out postcards to conservatives that are not registered to vote, but if they were, we believe that they would vote MAGA based on their profiles. And so if you want to help with that voter registration effort, it's really important because Carrie Lake, she should have won that election. I believe that she did win the election, but the vote difference was only 70,000. So even though I loved the presentation Seth did, even though we show that we're up 161,000, keep in mind that there's a lot of swampy voters that register as R, but they vote for the swamp and they vote for the Democrats in the general. So don't rely on those numbers to be the numbers that are like your golden ticket to winning Arizona. We have got to make sure that we are educating people on the process to vote and make sure that they know how to secure their ballot. That's one of the things that we worked really hard at on the election last year. We did 7.6 million text messages in the between the primary and the general. We did another over 2 million text messages afterwards to teach people how to secure their ballot. So if you're not signed up right now, if you're a voter in Arizona and you are not signed up for alerts from your recorder's office to secure your voter registration record, make sure you go to either myarizona.vote or beballotready.vote if you're in Maricopa County and sign up for text message alerts. The reason why this is really important is because what Shelby talked about, which is that our MVD system is trying to move voters from one county to another, so then their vote gets canceled. They get canceled as a voter, or they get moved to another county and they don't know, and they get forced to vote provisional. So if you sign up for those text message alerts, you will be notified every time anything on your voter registration record changes. Now, to that point, I want to talk about the issue where there's 200,000 voters in Arizona that have not proven their citizenship that are full ballot voters. I'm really disappointed in this circumstance because we just got an opinion from Attorney General Chris Mays, who I think is illegitimate. I think she stole that election, but she put out an opinion saying that that the recorders are not allowed to remove or downgrade the voters that have not proven their citizenship who are already registered to vote full ballot. Unfortunately, our AZ GOP chairwoman agreed with her, so we have no one fighting to help support our recorders who were planning on making them be either canceling their voter registration record if they didn't show proof of citizenship or downgrading them to be a federal only voter. And so with that was caused by an MVD glitch in the motor vehicle division system. That MVD glitch is still a problem. It is still allowing non-citizens to register to vote. And so whereas most of the 200,000 are probably citizens, the first two they found were not citizens. I know that Maricopa County just found 2 more voters that were not citizens. And unfortunately, we ran into a voter in the primary last year who is a citizen of France. One of our volunteers called him. He told us he's a citizen of France. He said he doesn't know how he got registered to vote. He did not register to vote. He's been trying to get the MVD and the recorders to cancel his voter registration record. Well, public records requested his record, and sure enough, the MVD system has flagged him as saying he's given proof of citizenship to vote. That is insane. He is a citizen of France. His jury duty form says he's a citizen of France. So this glitch still exists in the MVD system. Katie Hobbs, the governor, is the one that has oversight of that, along with Adrian Fontes at the Secretary of State's office. So we have to stay vigilant. The last thing I'll leave with you is please call all of your county recorders and tell them that they need to run their entire voter rolls through the SAVE database at DHS. President Trump has fixed the system so that we can search by, the recorders can search by the last 4 social security digits, social security number digits. And so that allows Arizona to use it. So make sure you're telling every single recorder that you want them to run their entire voter rolls through that DHS SAVE system, and make sure that there are 0 non-citizens on our voter rolls. And so if you have any questions about that, you can find my email address is Marissa, spelled Merissa, at marissahamilton.com. You can find me on X at Marissa Hamilton. And you can also find me at easyaz.org. Again, that's easyaz.org. And I hope to see you tonight so that we can grill Ray Valenzuela on the shenanigans happening in Maricopa County.
Thank you very much, Marissa. We certainly appreciate it. Now we got one of the best guys that we ever have on, Joe Hopp, or Joseph Hopp. Really helps us out quite a bit. He's got some great information on Tina Peters, and hopefully we got an update on Orange County. Come on down, Joe.
Whenever you want. Great. Go ahead, Joe.
Okay, as soon as he's finished,
That's
put
great.
that
Hey,
video
Raj,
on.
thanks for that. Is that the 2 or 3 minute video on Tina? Raj?
I don't think it's on Tina, but I'm not sure.
No, the
Okay.
one that we sent is not on Tina, no. We don't have
Okay,
that,
perfect.
Joe. I don't know. Who did
Oh,
you
okay.
send that to?
Oh, I didn't. No, I didn't send it. I just was wondering if you guys got a hold of it.
No, we didn't.
Anyway,
You
yeah.
have it.
Okay. No, I don't have it with me today, but I've got some other information I'd love to share. So, again, Steve and Raj, it's great to be here with you and everybody else as always. Lots going on. We had a big event a couple weeks ago in Las Vegas, and that was really thrilling. General Flynn was there, Rudy Giuliani, Roger Stone, Laura Logan emceed it, Jim and I at the Gateway Pundit, and just a number of great people, many that you've had on your show, Steve. David Clements was with us, and it was really a month before the event, we ended up changing the name of it to Vindicated because Tulsi Gabbard had come out with her initial list of documents that she was sending over to the DOJ to begin an investigation into the crimes by the corrupt Obama-Biden regime. So it was perfect. We had a great time, and we shared a number of things, and I shared some things there myself, really related to elections. Some things I'll share today. And anyways, just wanted to give a plug in for that. It was a great time. We got some of the videos out there online too. You can go to Gateway Pundit or joehoff.com and see some of those. So encourage you to do so. Some really moving time. I think what my message here is just that, we're being vindicated now. We are moving forward, and yet the message from General Flynn and others, and maybe he already shared that today, is, now we fight. Now's the time to fight. It's like we just took over Normandy Beach or whatever. Now we've got the Battle of Bulge in front of us or whatever. So a lot of work to do still. But it's nice to know that we've been on the right side for a long time, and it's all starting to kind of fall together. So I'll mention a couple things. One thing, I got this piece this morning. I'm going to share this if you don't mind, Raj.
Yeah, go ahead. You can share
an article.
Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Great. There was an article that I wrote. Let's see if I can pull it up, the right one here. See what that looks like. No, that's not it. Wrote an article about it 10 days ago to the day, and it was about these 2 guys in St. Louis, and this really, to me, is what it's all about. These guys were a couple builders, and you know how the cities are all being destroyed, and as we're seeing it today. And there was a city project that allowed people to build homes, and then it was also connected to DEI. And so if you file the correct forms, you might get some sort of rebate on whatever activities you're involved in there to build buildings. 2 gentlemen ended up getting sued like days before, or even maybe hours before Biden left office. This happened across the country, by the way. And these guys were sued because they didn't comply properly with the DEI program. We were notified by some attorneys here 10 days ago, put up a piece in St. Louis And good news today is that the DOJ has dropped that case. These guys are no longer being indicted. The indictment was thrown out because the entire law that St. Louis was using is no longer in place. They're not using it because it's illegal and unconstitutional. So this is why we've been fighting for elections, to get rid of this insanity that was involved. And also, I think this is also why the insanity is there in the first place, because of the stolen and corrupt, broken U.S. Elections over the last, I don't know, two decades, I would guess. And so we see that in California. I've reported on that here late, a couple times, I think, Steve, about Orange County. We started looking into Orange County after the 2024 election. And what we found was that they needed to cure some ballots. We wrote a piece about that. It went up at Gateway Pundit. The next day, or that day that it went up, President Trump, which is a Friday after the election, he says, hey, the people in Orange County need help curing ballots. That night, that Friday night, there was a bomb threat. And so that made big news because we saw a couple white vans parked out back, which reminded us of Detroit from 2020. What is really going on? And that led to a series of articles that we wrote and put up at Gateway Pundit and joehoff.com, where we're highlighting the fact that, for example, they sent out 2.1 million ballots in Orange County. Orange County is the 6th largest county in America. It's just south of LA, one of the biggest, if not the biggest county in America. And they sent out 2.1 million ballots, but they only had 1.8 million people on their voter rolls. So there's the question, how do you send out 300,000 more ballots than you have people on your voter rolls? It doesn't make sense, even in the largest county in America. So that was one piece we reported. Number of anomalies there. We also then reported on the bomb threat. Eventually, we found out it was an email. We got video from the night that there was the bomb threat, and nobody's alarmed. Everybody's sitting in there just doing their work, and it would look pretty odd that for an hour there was a bomb threat. Nobody's running out of the place. Nobody's saying, I'm getting out of here. If it was me, I'd be saying, I'm getting out of here. But that wasn't the case. And then, quite frankly, what we found on a video that night, from that night, was that somebody's sitting there with a stack of ballots this big, actually a couple people, and we see them shove them through the machines multiple times. In one instance, 3 times. And so we're seeing all this in Orange County. The other big thing in Orange County is the fact that their voter rolls are a mess, as all of California. And we did a study with Harry Hari from United Sovereign Americans, and we ended up determining that 21% of the people that voted in Orange County, based on a statistical analysis that we used to do. I worked with a bunch of actuaries and a bunch of auditors and accountants in a past life. And this is very typical what we do, statistical analysis on a random sample. And that's what we did. And we come back 21% of the votes in Orange County aren't even basically related to real people. They're either phantom voters, meaning we don't know where they came from, or illegals, non-citizens, and or others that were invalid because they'd say they lived here, and maybe here was a telephone pole or something. So 21%, 1 out of 5 people in the 6th largest county in America was broken, and that's in 2024. So eventually, thanks to our reporting, the DOJ stepped in and said, hey, we want to figure out how is it that you're cleaning up your voter rolls, because that's a job that apparently that the county should be performing. They came back and said that they do it, but they wouldn't explain their rationale and how they do it, and they wouldn't provide all the information to the DOJ. The DOJ has sued them, and overnight, we found out yesterday, the Board of Supervisors for Orange County, again, 6th largest county in America, they have voted. They split the vote, meaning they don't care if the registrar of voters there, the person that runs elections in Orange County, if he sends the DOJ what they are asking for or not. They've left it up to him. And to date, he's not providing that evidence to the DOJ. So we're going to have to see what's going to happen next. Clearly, the reason it's not being provided is because there's massive fraud involved in California's elections. If 1 out of 5 voters is garbage, well, then that explains how you can get a Nancy Pelosi and Adam Schiff and all this Swalwell and all these, snakes, Newsom, as Trump says. That's how these guys make it into office. And then they just start destroying things, just like in St. Louis as well, put DEI ahead of people's safety. And it's insanity. So thank God we've got Trump in there and we're pushing forward with all that. So another piece I wanted to mention is that I'm working on a executive order, a draft, where I think that what we need to do is what we do in the corporate world. And I haven't heard, quite frankly, anybody else share this. And I'm not sure why. There isn't a lot of corporate people, I guess, involved in election integrity. There's some, but not enough that would make this recommendation. In the corporate world, when we finalize financials, we don't just have to have all of the support for every single entry in our financials. We also now, since the Sarbanes-Oxley legislations in the make sure every process is in place so that nothing could slip through the cracks. So imagine in our election process, if there was no way in that process that somebody could slip in some ballots or run them in the back door or add them to the post office or pick them up at apartments, etc. Imagine that. That's what we need in our U.S. Election process. That is all done before the financials are signed off on at year end. And what I think we need to do is implement something similar to that so that before the election, we ensure that all the processes are in place, just like with the corporate world. We're asking American corporations to do this every year. We need to ask it of our government, let alone our election process. The entire government should have to adhere to this as well, that your processes have to be so clean that there's no way that anything could slip in through the cracks. And I believe that the only way that an election entity in the U.S., a local precinct, the only way they'd be able to comply with this is if they get rid of those machines, because there's nobody in those offices that knows how to perform an audit on those election machines, and yet we're using them across the country. So I think it supports President Trump's efforts to try to get rid of the machines, as well as to try to get rid of these absentee ballots where there's no controls over them at all. So anyways, that's something we have in the works. One thing, and I guess the final thing here, Steve, is I received a call this morning. I wasn't exactly sure who was on the other end of the phone. I didn't recognize the number. And the number came from Colorado, and it was Tina Peters. And I got the chance to talk to Tina this morning. So I have that audio, and I wanted to share it with you briefly, maybe a piece of this, just the intro. The thing that amazes me, guys, is that Tina Peters, after all she's been through, and she's sitting there in prison, and it's dangerous. They put her in this area. She tells in this story, and I don't think we have time to share the whole thing, but they put her in this prison that's used to, she said one thing, it used to be an insane asylum. And so this one guy told her that works there that there's tunnels all underneath this place, which is really bizarre. What's the deal about these tunnels everywhere? And then the other thing she said is that some of the worst criminals out there, these are really real killers that they put Tina Peters in with. And to me, that's just beyond abuse. It's just, she shouldn't be there. She should be at home at the very least. And yet they put her in this prison with some real hardened criminals. So anyways, if you don't mind, Steve, I'll play a piece of this. Sure. It's right now, it's just on audio. But this is Tina Peters this morning. We're putting it up at the Gateway Pundit and joehoff.com here shortly once we get all the transcript done. But wanted you guys to just listen and note her great spirits. And the thing that grabbed me as I went back and listened to pieces, she's asking me how I'm doing. She's sitting in prison asking me how I'm doing. So here's a piece of Tina from earlier this morning. Did you hear me? Hear it
Yeah,
okay?
okay.
Joe, we're not hearing it yet. Can you put it right against your laptop?
Is that better?
Not yet.
Is that better?
That's a negative. Are you able to play it from your computer, from your laptop?
No, it's through a text.
Copy.
Yeah, if it doesn't play, why don't you just give us a little background of what it was?
Okay.
And you can, if you forward
Let me
it to me,
see.
if you forward the text to me, if it's a text, I can play it through the computer here on my end.
Okay. Let me
And
do that.
while he's
Send that
doing
to
that,
Raj.
and while he's doing that, Steve, shall I play Tickton and then come
Yeah,
back?
play
to Tina?
Tickton and then get that tape, and then we'll play that afterward. Because let me let everybody know that Peter Tickton was supposed to be on today. He called me right before we went on, and he had to take a plane. He was going to be on the plane while we had this, so we did about a 3-minute little interview, and he said he will come on the next one. So Raj is going to play it. I don't know how good it is because we had to tape it, and it was a little bit tough. It took me about a half an hour to do 3 minutes.
Stand by.
Okay, hello everybody. You're all wondering how things are going and where things are with Tina Peters. All I can tell you the things aren't cooking along the way they were, except that we're a little further down the road. I know that doesn't help me much in terms of understanding, but we need to get Tina Peters out of prison. And Donald Trump has made this a priority at this point. You know, he texted basically letting people know that harsh measures will be taken if she's not released. Well, she's going to be released. We're going to see, it's going to happen. It has to happen. There's too many good people on this. Too many people that care for this to keep going the way it's going. So Tina Peters has good reasons to have hope that she will be out. But at this point, all I know to say is that the wheels are turning. Things are happening where investigations are beginning, which is what has to happen this time around. Anyway, Peter Tickton, let you know what's up.
Okay, thanks, Peter. I will attempt to get the text from Joe to play here. Stand by.
So we don't want to forget Tina Peters. Every time we come on, we talk about her. Wayne Root working on that. President Trump put out on Truth Social that she better get out. It's so tough because everybody's working on it and nothing's happening. You know, that's the bad news. Just like you said, you know, we all try. We've had hundreds of thousands of people call the governor. They don't care. It's ridiculous to have a woman like this who has fought for us. And again, the next time we come on, we'll give you another address to send their cards. I want to make sure that everybody, you know, she cares more about us than a lot of people care about her. And it's our job to make sure that the people in this United States, besides President Trump and Joseph Hopp and Steve Stern and Raj Diyajami, care about her so that she can bear this because we had go ahead. Is it ready?
Almost. I need another 30 seconds, please.
All right. So I want to thank Robin Sachs from Maryland. She's on X with about 100 people. She really helps us. You know, we have people all over the country that are helping us. And if anybody wants to get involved while they're working on it, give me an email, sstern1054@gmail.com. We read all the emails. We want people to be involved. If you have podcasters for our next event next week, please let us know. Anybody who wants to come on and meet all the podcasters, please email me. Go to Stern American and follow me on X because everything we do, we put on it. And anybody that wants information now will get it. Still, X is taking people off. And that's bad news because people post things thinking that it's not going to hurt. And all of a sudden they take them off. So we still have problems with, you know, letting us talk about the elections being stolen, et cetera, et cetera. So I will also let everybody know that we'll try to get Corsi and Ticton on again. They're working on an EO, executive order, which we've had on numerous times here. 1 day voting, only no machines, nobody who's not an American citizen to vote, and many, many other things. Now, they've taken over 4 months to write this. 7 attorneys are looking at this. So hopefully President Trump does this in September and everybody's going to feel good. Want to thank again John Goodman, who worked with Lindell and with Trump and with Ticton and with Corsi in helping him get language that's proper. It's amazing what you have to go through. So thank you, everybody, for being here today. That's another important thing. Raj has done a wonderful job bringing a lot of information out. We work very hard in doing this. A lot of people don't understand what it takes to put one of these things on. I got phones going on to make sure everybody shows up on time. That, and it's been 3 years now. We haven't had a bad program where we were a couple of minutes late. So it takes a lot of effort. My team behind us, Samantha, Melissa, Anthony, many, many people working on this. It takes a lot to put this on. Now, we don't ask for money. We pay the money out to get, whatever we got to do because we want to help our country. So thank you, Steve Bannon, because without Steve Bannon, it wouldn't happen. And thank you, Raj, for doing everything you're doing.
And thank you, Steve. And let's listen to this important message from Joe Hoft from Tina Peters. Stand by.
Raj, it's about 15 minutes, so you might want to cut it early whenever you have to. But we'll put the whole thing up later today at Gateway Pundit. Okay.
Copy that. Stand by.
Don't hear it, Rob.
Audio check. You didn't hear it? All right, let's try one more time.
If it doesn't play, let's get Greg Stench on. He's waiting.
Copy that. Stand by. Trying one more time.
Yeah, not working, Raj. Let's do it another time.
Thanks.
Let's get Greg on, but before we do that, I want to thank everybody again for coming on. Also, go to theflagshirt.com. I gave most of the business to my son so I could do this. We have our precinct strategy thing coming on. We have a lot of stuff going on. www.theflagshirt.com, the largest patriotic website in the world. Steve Bannon was nice enough to promote it today. We got a lot of orders in. Thank you very much. Greg, you on there? Thank you, Joe. We appreciate you coming on.
Thanks, guys.
I don't know if Greg is unmuted. You there, Greg?
Dude. Am I the right?
There he is.
Am I the right side up or am I sideways? Do I need to turn my phone?
Oh, you're good. You're good. Go ahead,
great.
Greg.
So great to be here. Joe Hoft, a good friend, and always hard to follow him. I think I'm the last one today, and I want to start by thanking Steve Stern and the Stern America Show because it really does make a difference. I get a lot of feedback, and I do think that some of our opposition, watches the show or is aware of it, and a lot of our supporters. So I want to give my condolences again to Tina Peters, who continues to be suffering and victimized by a previously weaponized government. That brings me to the status of what we call a key TAM, QUITAM. Myself and Colonel Timothy Schindler and 750 others filed a lawsuit in May 22nd of this year. And basically it was filed under the False Claims Act. And the thrust of the case is that 750 whistleblowers we already have, and it looks like it'll be up to 3,000 whistleblowers. And in this case, Tina Peters would be a whistleblower. Joe Hoft would be a whistleblower. people who spoke out about the corruption of the previous regime under Biden and under Obama. The federal government was weaponized against these whistleblowers. I'm one of them. Colonel Sindelar was another. Tina Peters is welcome to, we expect that she's one of the 3,000 that will join the suit. But what the suit is, it named specific defendants, people who were implementing the weaponization that was implemented by Obama regime and by the Biden regime, where they weaponized the federal government against its citizens with the intent and the motivation to extract wealth from our country. So that qui tam was filed on May 22nd. The lead defendant was Michael Horowitz. Michael Horowitz was the Inspector General for the DOJ, and for a long time he was the de facto chair of an organization in our government. It's a formal organization called the SIGI, the Council for Inspector General Integrity and Efficiency, SIGI. It was also referred to as the Council. And what it was senior politically appointed officials, which included Merrick Garland, William Barr, Inspector General Horowitz, the former FBI directors, Comey, among them. All these people that are coming up in the news now were named as defendants who weaponized and punished people that were political adversaries to them. So the qui tam spells that out. It's over 430 pages. It was filed in May. It was unsealed in June. And here we are. It's August 27th, I think, today. And the courts are in fibrillation. And the justices that are involved are Judge Boasberg from the DC Circuit and Judge Ali from the DC Circuit. And what they've done in this case and what they've done in other cases, election cases in Pennsylvania and federal cases that we filed, is they're now at a point of fibrillation. They're caught. There's no longer any question that there was massive election fraud. There's no longer any question that the government was weaponized against people and for any number of reasons, elections being one, people who brought up fraud within our health system, and people who brought up fraud in terms of the general extraction of wealth in this country by corrupt officials. And that includes congressmen, senators, senior officials. We named over 117 people in that lawsuit, 117 senior officials. I'm happy to say that since that was filed, over half have either resigned or been terminated or moved. Inspector General Horowitz was moved and announced on June 6th, just days before this case was supposed to be unsealed, that it was naming him, and he was moved to the Federal Reserve from the DOJ. That was an administrative move, and they said, oh, it's a promotion. It wasn't a promotion. The Federal Reserve is a quasi-federal government agency, quasi-agency. And what that means is that the rules of discovery and the ability to, do any discovery at all are severely thwarted. So he moved from a place where there was that we could have gotten complete transparency in terms of records. He moved to a place where we couldn't. So the impact of that qui tam has been tremendous. Multiple government officials resigned and were terminated. The head of the PIN, the Office of Professional Responsibility, all named in that lawsuit, and all who had been in positions for, in some cases, decades, fled the government. Now that qui tam is going, and it has an impact in terms of the Steve Stern show, which primarily focuses on election integrity, but has expanded. I've noticed, Steve, over the last couple of months, has expanded. But with the disclosure that Tulsi Gabbard has made in terms of the corruption and the treason committed by Obama, and quite frankly, multiple people who were named in our key TAM who went after people. This combination of this, not only election integrity but government corruption, that President Trump, I think the greatest president of American history and the greatest whistleblower in American history, has made a tremendous impact on and restoring our republic, restoring the wealth of the American people, and restoring freedoms and liberties that were being taken from us. And he's coming back, and it's making a huge, huge difference. We are seeing movement. We are seeing fear now. Before, the judges and corrupt officials, they didn't fear us because they controlled the system. If you've got a corrupt inspector general, okay, and you have a corrupt attorney general, which we had, then the people who were relying on the DOJ and the inspector general and the FBI to sort things out and relying on government. Now we're seeing new people: Kash Patel, head of the FBI; Pam Bondi, U.S. Attorney General. What we're seeing now is President Trump has been putting in good people, trusted people, and they are clearing out the corruption. I know it seems slow to people, and I know people are looking for, immediate accountability. But let's face it, President Trump's been in office for 9 months, and we had a deeply entrenched, corrupt government that he has done a great job of clearing out. And it's going to keep going and
Greg,
going.
2 minutes, Greg.
I'm wrapping up. I just wanted to give people hope that we're at a point now where these people who are corrupt, and there's still what we call a rear guard in place. A rear guard was left in place, and they have every intention of stealing the 2026 election, okay, and using fraudulent elections to install a Congress and a U.S. Senate that will suppress Trump and work on impeaching him and indicting him in his last 2 years of his presidency. I now don't, I had my doubts, but I don't think that's going to happen now. I think President Trump and the leaders that he's put into office, Tulsi Gabbard, Kash Patel, Pam Bondi, and a host of others, Jeanine Pirro, she was confirmed as the U.S. Attorney for D.C. District, and she is on fire. So we've got the people in place now to protect these whistleblowers. I do think Peter Tickton, his brief interview there, I do think Tina Peters, hopefully we're at the light at the end of the tunnel, that she will be released, that the government was weaponized against her, and that's going to be fixed. People like Joe Hoft, who was just on, Peter Tickton, and a number of people, Roger Stone, among them, Mike Flynn, Steve Bannon, these people who were victimized, Alex Jones, I just thought of, these people who were victimized and severely attacked, imprisoned, Peter Navarro, these people were all victimized by this group of people that we named in this key TAM. And there will be a restoration, there will be a reconciliation, and there are a lot of people working behind the scenes. I just wanted to mention, if it didn't come up on the show today, I heard Molly Hornick has just been put into a position where she'll be doing election oversight, election security, which is fabulous news. Congratulations, Marley.
Yeah, it wasn't Marley. I'm sorry, it wasn't Marley. It was.
Oh, I thought it was Marley.
No, it wasn't. It was somebody else.
Oh, okay.
We got to run because we're running late. It was
okay.
The girl from Pennsylvania, from your area.
Oh, okay. Oh, it was Heather Honey.
Yes.
Heather Honey went to
Right.
Homeland Security.
Okay,
so
thanks very much.
Congratulations.
I'm sorry we're running a little late, Greg.
Thanks, Steve.
I'll get you on next time. You got it.
All right.
Next up is Ray Michaels. Ray is totalnews.com, good friend of mine with his brother Norman. Come on down, Ray. Are you unmuted, Ray? If not, Michelle.
There you go.
Michelle.
There you go. Yeah,
Okay.
I got it. I got it. Hello, hello, hello from beautiful Arizona. Yes, Steve, thanks so much for having this call. And again, many prayers to Tina Peters. It's just tragic what's happening there, but I think that's going to be resolved here quick. As Steve mentioned, totalnews.com, grassroots50.com. I wanted to, we do a lot of research here. We want to educate, we want to inform, educate, and motivate all the people, and then activate them out to get out there, because you know what? It is our duty, it's our responsibility in self-governance to participate. And if you're not participating, you can't complain. So we need to get in there. So the Arizona Constitution, Article 2, Section 2, free and equal elections. Listen to this. This is in our Constitution here in the United States. It says, all elections shall be free and equal, and no power, civil or military, shall at any time interfere to prevent the free exercise of the right of suffrage. And I'll tell you what, we've been experiencing that over and over here in Arizona. Now, the term election integrity is a little bit misleading because there is nothing integrous about how our elections are handled. They're doing exactly what they said that they were going to do. They have they've tied us up with the elections. What I'd like to see is we, the people, demanding free and equal, trustworthy elections moving forward. Again, that's what we do at Grassroots 50 and at totalnews.com. Now, I did want to tell you a story. We went down to Cochise County, down at the bottom of Arizona, and we attended the BOS meeting. You remember probably a year and a half, 2 years ago, and the governor has been very upset about this, but that board of supervisors there was unsure about the elections, and they didn't want to certify the elections. And boy, the weight of the whole government came down on them. Well, they just had a recent board of supervisor meeting just a little less than a month ago. I went down there with Michael Schaefer. You probably know that name. He is a chair of LD4 here in Maricopa County. And he was the one who actually, he's got a company that does the certification. And he realized that machines aren't being certified. They're just not. And so we went down there, and it was a big meeting. And then afterwards, they had another afternoon meeting just to kind of refresh everybody's memory, because what we're trying to do is to get hand counts here in Arizona. After the meeting was over, the chair of the Board of Supervisors, he demanded a couple things. He wants some sort of SOP, standard operating procedure, on how it would be done, the manner in which it would be done, how many people are needed, how much it's going to cost, the time. He was asking for everything. So I went up to him and I said, if I could provide this to you, would you consider it here in Cochise County? And he said, well, I need this. I said, yes. If I provided it to you, would you do it? He said, yes. So they're here in Maricopa County. This is MCRC. This is Craig Berlin, chair, and first vice chair. You heard Shelby a little bit earlier. They've already gone to multiple states, done this exact thing. They have the SOP, they have the videos, they have the manner, they have the time frame, they have the people, they have everything that they are presenting now to Cochise County. And hopefully Cochise County will adopt this. In fact, I understand that even as far as maybe people in DC are looking for hand counting as well. So we thank everybody on the EGC, that's the Executive Guidance Committee here in Maricopa County, for doing that, led by wonderful Chair Craig Berlin and First Vice Chair Shelby Bush. They say that as Maricopa County goes, so does the state of Arizona, and so does the nation. We are the largest Republican bloc county. I'm a little bit disappointed in the Board of Supervisors here in Maricopa County, as Marissa Hamilton mentioned and several others. There's just a disconnect from the people to the recorder to the actual Board of Supervisors. Right now, they're spending so much money building a huge building specifically to run elections with machines. And we're trying to go away from that, but they are raising the flags, and they're so excited about having this brand new facility, and it's going to be state of the art. There's going to be no chain of custody, and it's going to be a lot worse off than what we have right now. So we encourage the Board of Supervisors to work with the county recorder and to work towards going back to what worked for a long time, which was hand count one day. So I feel very blessed even to be here with you, Steve. Thank you so much. I actually chair a legislative district 8 here in Maricopa County. I was a state committeeman and also very blessed to go and be a national delegate up in Milwaukee. So it's exciting. And I know that the more we can get out this information, the more that we can inform and educate and motivate and then send them out. The more we can get this out, the better it's going to be, not only for the state of Arizona, but for every single state. And that's what we do at Grassroots 50. We work with all 50 of the states. You know, we had at our meeting last night, we had Congressman Andy Biggs, and he had mentioned how excited he was about the happenings in DC, what's happening with our party, how President Trump is really taking the bull by the horns and calling things out as they should be. Mail-in voting. I mean, he went even back to Jimmy Carter days where they had a huge decision made that it was the worst that you could possibly do with the mail-in ballots. So now is not the time to divide the Republican Party. Now is the time that we need to come together at one goal. Let's not take our eyes off of the goal, off of the ball. Let's move forward. And Steve, you know what? We appreciate you so much because you're putting these things together. And the more people that see this, I understand you have millions and millions of people that are watching now. So if you are in any other state and you want to get involved in this and you want to hear what we're doing here in Maricopa County in Arizona, check us out on Grassroots 50. Check us out on totalnews.com, grassroots50.com. Also, if you are a podcaster and you need a little bit more exposure, DM me. We'd love to get you out there. And we need to spread the word as much as we can. Just as Liz Harris was saying, we need hand counting. And I know Michelle Swenick has been working very, very hard on just holding people accountable. You know, I heard something the other day about somebody saying, what is your love language? And he said, accountability. And you know what? We need to hold our elected officials accountable. We don't need another politician. We need statesmen. You know, they say that politics, if you break it down, poly meaning many, and ticks meaning blood-sucking leeches. Yeah, that's basically our party. If we don't get back to the original, the constitutional way that we need to do it, where these are public servants, they are statesmen, and they are not self-serving. They are here to serve the public. But I'll tell you what, it's great being on here and just hearing everybody give their opinion here in Arizona and across the country. Thanks so much, Steve. It's such a pleasure. Not sure how much time I have.
We're pretty much out.
I don't
That's a little out of time, but tell Norman I said hello and thank you for coming.
Oh, I will.
Your friend Michelle Swinick is next. So come.
Oh, fantastic.
Yep. Michelle, you there?
I'm here, sir.
All right. So Michelle and I are going to have a big event next Wednesday. We want everybody to come on. That's a podcaster. Certainly, Norman and Ray are invited. We're going to do a big party. So tell everybody about it and let's get with you.
Yeah, just real quick. So on Wednesdays, this is for podcasters, guests, and speakers. Anybody who is out there promoting their businesses, the truth. You're welcome to come to our Wednesday Zoom calls, which are networking and collaboration events, which is 12 p.m. Pacific time, 7 p.m. Eastern time. And I will, it's at savemyfreedom.us. You can subscribe there and also on Podcaster Podium, which there's links to that. So just do this, savemyfreedom.us for right now. I do need to do a screen share, but as I am doing that, Ray mentioned accountability. And I think it was interesting that real quick, he mentioned that at the LD8 meeting, Andy Biggs was there. Ironically, in the 2024 state meeting that we had here in Arizona, for all of the state committeemen, we were voting on whether we were going to count the ballots for the election by hand or by machine, and Andy Biggs voted by machine. So I think it's interesting now that he's talking about by hand because Trump doesn't like the machine. So just a little accountability there. We got quite a few accountability things we're going to talk about in here. So Ray also mentioned you've heard a lot of opinions, which are great. but we're going to talk facts and evidence. Okay. For 2.5 years, for those of you who do not know me or are familiar with me, I have been, I was an election judge for the November 8th, 2022 election. I was an election inspector for the 2024 presidential preference election. And for the last 2.5 years, I have investigated the 2020, 2022, and 2024 elections in Maricopa County, which were illegal, illegitimate. Many laws, statutes, processes, procedures were violated. All 3 elections, including their primaries, should be and must be set aside, null and void, and should have been done at the time. All the documentation and information, my research partner, Leo Gianofrio, and I have posted and released on podcasts are Maricopa County's official election records, returns, and documents. All were required by either public records requests or publicly available on websites with the cost of $0. $0. Let that sink in, with all the money that has been raised and grifted in the election integrity movement, which is the big lie. There's no such thing as election integrity, never was. And all of this documentation that was required, that was acquired by us, didn't cost $1. I have at least 400 gigabytes of data and information, and that doesn't include all the shows that we have done. I'm still waiting on public records requests for the 2024 general election. It's been 8 months. I don't need it because there's nothing else to show. There's nothing else to prove. We've done it all. There's nothing else to investigate. It's all been done. And in September of 2024, for those of you who don't know, most of the people don't, the Trump team had asked me to put together a summary of our findings. It's right here. It's 12 pages long. And this was prior to the general election in 2024, which had even more crimes that Maricopa County committed. Okay. So this I have not released to the public yet because it's always going to fall on deaf ears. So all of our information and videos, including our court case, which I encourage you to read so you can understand the crimes, just a smidgen of crimes that were committed. There are massive amounts of felonies, federal and state felonies that were committed by Maricopa County. Call it Mayor Corruption County. And you can get all that information if you go to savemyfreedom.us, savemyfreedom.us. It's the same site that we've been plugging for 3.5 years. And you click the election fraud shows, because it's election fraud. That's what it is. It's election fraud. These are massive crimes. The websites are there. The election lawsuit that we filed is there. And also all of the shows. There's about 50 different episodes and short segments that are also in order of what you need to watch. So let's do a screen share so you guys can be brought up to speed on some facts and evidence that go on in our elections, because we do not have real elections. You need to understand that. If you want to believe that we do, that's on you at this point, because we don't. We don't have real elections. So hopefully, can somebody tell me that we could see the screen where it shows Maricopa County crime scene? And Ray, can you mute your phone, Ray? It's just like when he was on my shows. He's always having sidebar conversations. That's Ray Michaels, everybody, LD8. So again, we do not have real elections, everybody. We have an election system operation with the headquarters for all election fraud right here in Maricopa County, Mayor Corruption County, Anarchy, Arizona. That is what we have here, okay? We have massive manufactured and manipulated election crime scenes. And Maricopa County, in these past 3 major elections, have committed many federal and state felonies in every election. Okay, this is all proven with their own official election records and returns. We've provided all this information to the public, and I'd be happy to go on the stand under oath without committing perjury, raise my right hand, and explain all this to anybody who cares to understand or see it in the court of law. So that pretty much, anyone can do this. Anyone can go get the information themselves. They just need to request it, okay? So when you say that the elections are rigged or they're stolen, it's similar to saying like a soldier's on the battlefield and he just got his arms and his legs blown off and you're saying, oh, he just has a hangnail. So please, please refrain from using the words rigged or stolen, because you have massive, massive crime scenes. Now, I want you to take a look at this. For everyone who keeps saying that the Democrats cheat, okay? No, Republicans commit crimes and they protect the election fraud. In Arizona, Republicans love to protect the fraud. All of the documentation, again, that we have provided to the entire public is all public documents, and it's the actual official election records and returns from Maricopa County. As you can see, this is the governor's, the executive branch. It also has the county recorder's information, the county recorder. It has the election department heads and the county officials and the board of supervisors. It's majority Republican. 4 of the 5 board of supervisors are Republican. If you want to call them rhinos, it doesn't matter, okay? They're all in onto this together. There's 2 phrases that you can describe people that are in the political arena regarding elections. They're either in on it or incompetent. One of the 2. That's it. The documentation is clear. All right? You have to remember that the counties control the results, not the voters, and the results do not match the votes. We have proven that in the 2020, 2022, and 2024 elections, again, with the county's own official election records, returns, and documents. So your vote doesn't match the results, and there's a lot of people sitting in office for the past 4 years that do not belong there. And can you imagine how many things were passed that were illegally and illegitimately passed? What I want you to look at, this is a precinct ballot report, okay? Once we broke down elections, we realized how real simple they are. They make them complicated because they don't want you to understand them. They are a very simple process. This is an audit form that we use at the end of the night at the voting center. I-22, not realizing really what I was signing because we didn't have proper training. And in 2024, I filled it out with the election board, who is the other poll workers, not observers, poll workers, not watchers, workers that are employed by the county that are working at the voting centers. I filled this out with them, and then I signed it as the inspector and the 2 judges. Now, what I want you to realize, this is the audit form we use on the end of the night. This is the audit. This is the precinct ballot report called the PBR. The one on the left is what Maricopa County used for the 2024 general election. The one on the right is the one that I created that was part of our lawsuit that has all the criteria that's required by law. There are 13 critical data points that are required by the law, the statutes and the elections procedures manual. Maricopa County only uses 5. Okay, I'm going to say it again. There are 13 required by law, critical data points in order to audit an election at the voting centers on election day. Maricopa uses 5 of the 13. What could go wrong? On the left has the 5. The right, the form I created, which meets all those criteria, and I added an extra one as a safety measure, that has all of them. They refuse to use this documentation, okay? They refused to use this. They wanted to keep their form. Now, what I want you to remember, and this is in multiple shows that we did, multiple posts, our posts and videos just on Twitter alone have been seen by at least 500 million people in the past 2.5 years. And we still post every single day about election crimes and election fraud and begging President Donald Trump to investigate Maricopa because it is time for people to get prosecuted. And we'll talk about that real quick at the end. So, going back to the precinct ballot report, what I want you to remember and keep in mind is there are only 2 numbers that matter in elections on election day at the voting centers. How many people checked in to vote? How many ballots left the building? Nothing else matters. Those are the only 2 numbers that matter. Because if you don't have either one of these numbers, you can't reconcile an election because you have nothing to prove it, or you have nothing to go against, and you have nothing to verify. I have nothing to work with as an inspector or a judge if I don't know how many people came here and I don't know how many ballots were cast and left. In the 2020 and 2022 elections, on this precinct ballot report, the number of voters that checked in was not on it, okay? Was not there. So in those 2 elections, there is no documentation at the actual vote centers of how many people came in to vote. So the number that the county told everybody in the canvas was whatever they told the numbers to be. Okay? You don't have an election right there. Those are called non-technical statutes. That's enough. If someone would have brought that to the court of law to set aside the elections for either 2020 and 2022. There are massive amounts of these non-technical statutes that were violated and continue to be violated today in the most recent election that we had in 2024, okay? And this is the system. It's called an election system operation. So you can get rid of the machines, which the Dominion already told you in February of 2022 that our machines don't tabulate correctly, but no one seemed to care about that. and you can eliminate the early ballots. But those were that process was illegal up until 2024, and you can thank our legislators for making sure that that was actually now an illegal process, which was legalized. So that's a whole nother show. We've talked about that endlessly for the past 2 years. So what I also want you to know is in 2022, since the form had hardly any of this information on, and it didn't have how many people had checked in to vote, guess who knew about that? And we did multiple shows on this, and we showed the affidavits where the poll watchers were trying to get this information from the inspectors, and they said, we didn't have it. We didn't know where it was. We've never heard of that before. Okay, again, I said it was the number 2. There's 2 numbers that matter. That was one of them. Guess who knew about it? I believe they were on the call today. So you have Gina Swoboda knew about it. It's in the affidavit, and it happened to be at my vote center in 2022. So Gina Swoboda knew, the MCRC knew, Carrie Lake's team knew, Jen Wright, who was the previous attorney general, knew, Abe Hamadeh's, she's Abe Hamadeh's attorney, the Republican election integrity team knew, and Harmeet Dillon knew that the most important number that is on a ballot, or the second most important number on these precinct ballot reports, was not being documented at the voting center. So there was nothing to reconcile because I have no idea how many people checked in to vote. So you can have how many ballots left the building or were added on to these vote centers at any time. And you wonder why the numbers didn't match. And they didn't match, okay? They didn't match 15.5% of the voting machines. The numbers on the front of the tabulator did not match the number on the tally tapes. So what was interesting is because of all the noise we made and all the information that was exposed that Leo and I did, we forced them to put that number of how many people checked in to vote on these precinct ballot reports for the 2024 election. So I want you to watch this real quick.
No sound.
Oh, there's no sound?
Michelle, just
Oh.
double check that you clicked on share sound when you share your screen.
Let me
So
unshare and then share back.
Share,
How do
stop
I
share, and then start share.
Oh, there's share.
There's a little button on the right side that says share sound.
There's
on
stop
Zoom.
share. Stop share. Now it's frozen. It doesn't like this. Okay, stop share. Now I go share.
Share screen.
Share screen.
And then look on the right side of the screen for a toggle button.
Advanced sharing open. Did you let me be the share screen person? Oh, here we go. Here we go. I'm back. So share screen. Oh, what a pain in the ass. Hold on, everybody.
On the right side of the screen.
Yeah, now I see that. Share sound. I got that. Now I just got to pick the
good.
right screen. Okay, this is important. This is so important that you guys need to understand that this is what's going on currently. Okay, this is what's going on currently. So the gentleman that you're going to see, and I use the word loosely, gentleman. Okay, he's a criminal. No, I'm going to say it the real world. He's a criminal. This man should be in prison. This is Scott Jarrett. He's the elections director. There's 2 elections directors. He is election day. Okay, and then you have early, which is Ray Valenzuela. Both of them are criminals. They have committed massive amounts of crimes. They have just disenfranchised all the voters of Arizona, which in effect destroyed what transpired in our country in 2020 and 2022. And now I'm frozen. So if I'm going to continue to be frozen, then you guys aren't going to be able to see this.
Yeah, we only have 5 minutes. We got to close it down, Michelle.
All right, let me try to get out of this. If I'm frozen, I'm frozen. Okay, I'm back. All right, so what I want you to watch is this video. So that is Scott Jarrett, the elections director. What he is telling you is what happened during the primaries, which happens every election because he admitted in documentation that for decades, and that's decades with an S, means more than 2, which is at least 20 years, the board, the elections department, the board of supervisors, they back out election results from election day just because they feel like it and redo the elections. And that is 100% illegal. That's called disenfranchisement of voters. In 2020, and I'm still looking for this, so bear with me. So in 2022, they did it with over 48,000 ballots. And in 2024, which this is the first time anyone's hearing this, they did it over 51,000 ballots. Now, keep this in mind. We have vote center models. Okay. So that means that everybody can come from anywhere in Maricopa County and vote. So because we use that type of a model, you have, you're not gonna be able to see this today because I can't get it to pull up. So you have a vote center model, which means that any of those ballots could be affecting almost in every single race. So you have entire elections that are affected by them illegally backing out ballots and rerunning them through at MCTEC. And I have all of that. I have 2 weeks worth of them doing all of this on video for the primaries and for the 2024 election. So let me try screen share one more time. So what does this all mean? I keep explaining this information. Nobody seems to care, right? So what is the next steps? The next steps, and I'm going to try to screen share one more time because we're not going to have time for the videos. What do we do? What do we do? Well, we need to demand at this point, okay? Demand that President Trump investigates and prosecutes Maricopa County. And by Maricopa County, I mean Scott Jarrett, Ray Valenzuela, the Board of Supervisors for 2022, 2020, and records and returns to prosecute these people. We also have Stephen Richer, who committed perjury. We haven't even released that information yet. Okay, so there's even more. And the worst of the election crimes, showing that they even committed more federal and state felonies at even a higher level. I haven't released that yet. Okay, so that still hasn't come. Maybe I'll do it next year. In order to put it together for you, it's going to take me like a week or two. And that's a lot of time that I don't have to spend because I don't get paid to do this. And I have bills to pay. So I can't keep playing election investigator when that's just not an option. So I'm trying to pull up the Trump document. See, this is what happens when I go on shows, guys. All of a sudden, everything is fine. And then I get talking about all this election stuff. And it goes scrolly. And I've been doing this for 2.5 years, and this happens every single time. Okay, every single time. This is not new. So here's what you can do. You can go to savemyfreedom.us, and you can subscribe. If you go and click on the election tab that says election fraud shows, okay? There is no election integrity. There's no election insecurity. Steve will not change the name. I have begged him for 3 years. It is election fraud prevention, because that's what we're doing, preventing the fraud. The fraud is still happening. The fraud will happen without machines. The fraud will happen without mail-in ballots, because the fraud is being committed by the people that are in charge, the Board of Supervisors, the election directors, which is Scott Jarrett and Ray Valenzuela. All of these people need to be prosecuted for the crimes that they have committed. And that needs to happen now. So you can contact Trump. Renata, who was an LD12, is a warrior unlike anyone else on Twitter. What she does every day is, we've been doing it for every day since 2.5 years, but hardcore every day for the past, every single day since the November 5th election, she's posting on social media to demand that President Trump gets either a prosecutor, a special prosecutor, or somebody in authority investigates Arizona, which they don't have to. I have everything, and we've provided most of it publicly. The rest of it, I have no problem meeting with anybody. And then go ahead and prosecute the criminals, because you will not have elections in the United States of America until the people that have committed the crimes, and these are election crimes, they're not rigging, it's not cheating, it's massive amounts of federal and state felonies. Until these people are put behind bars, the election system operation needs to be exposed and it needs to be dismantled. If it's as far as 2026, they've already determined who's won. Okay, that's how the system works. They manipulate and manufacture the results. And this is not a theory. This is not an opinion. This is not a hypothesis. This is based on the actual evidence, which is Maricopa County's official election records, returns, and documents.
1 minute, Michelle. We got to close it down.
So I'm trying to pull this document for you. Okay, so there you go. This should be Trump, because on October 8th, 2024, Trump said that anybody that cheats on the election is going to jail. Well, it is time that we ask, demand, whatever you want to call it, that President Trump lives up to his word and takes care of that here in Maricopa County. And then the rest of the states will fall into line, because all you need is one. And we're the biggest one, and we commit the fraud. And all of our Republican buddies here love to protect this election fraud. And all the information is public. And again, the cost to acquire it was zero. So you could follow Renata and me on social media. I'm at Everything Home Tea. She's in all of my posts. And you can push this out and you can get vocal, because other than that, nothing is going to change. And it is time that the people take back their own elections. Hand counting's not enough, guys. Getting rid of the machines is not enough. Changing the registration and getting rid of the 5 illegals that vote. Voter fraud's not an issue. It is election fraud. It is election crimes committed by the people that run this. And then our own side is protecting the crimes. These are crimes. Please start using the right words. And I encourage you to get behind the right things to do, because otherwise you're just spinning in circles, because 2026 has already been determined. You just haven't been included in the results, because the votes don't reflect the results. The votes don't reflect the results. The counties manipulate and manufacture them, and they get to choose whoever is telling them, I don't know, it doesn't matter. It's time to arrest the criminals. Trump's the only person that can do that. It cannot be done here in the state, because they're all in on it together.
Thank you very much, Michelle. We got to close it down. Raj, last words. All right. Want to thank everybody for coming on today. You can see the
Sorry,
repeat.
Steve, I'm back.
Go ahead.
Great.
Go ahead, Raj. We're going to close it down.
All right. Guys, so I want to just give you all an update. Again, thank you to all the brilliant speakers that were here, and importantly, all the folks that are in the audience. Thanks for making this a action-taking event. And speaking of action, a couple of things. First, if you are in the state of Florida, please consider going to defendflorida.org. Why? Because we have put there the delegation meetings that are coming up. Some of them already have happened.
You're breaking up, Raj.
You're counties and delegation meetings. What are delegation meetings? And any of our, I'm breaking up. Okay, let me cut the video first. All right, let me know if that's any better, Steve. We have delegation meetings coming up in the state of Florida. All right, great. We have delegation meetings coming up in the state of Florida. These are very important. This is an opportunity for you to meet with all of your elected legislators in one location in your county. Oftentimes, when we are in the state capitol and we're talking and petitioning and advocating for the legislation.
You're breaking up again, Raj. Yeah, I think we lost Raj. So I want to thank everybody. I want to thank the OPBM network for getting us on today. They've done a great job. We will be back on here on Thursday, the 18th. I know Raj is out of town and he's not working in the studio, so it's pretty tough. So you can go to Stern American to get a copy of it. Again, thank you everybody for staying with us. I know a lot of it's a long Zoom call, but we had a lot.
They will say, well, we didn't really hear from.
Yeah, Raj, you're breaking up, so let's close it down.